Good evening. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Please remain standing.
Please join me in prayer. Please watch over our council tonight as we take up the matters facing the citizens and the businesses in Los Alamitos. Give us the strength and will to do the right thing, to come up with the best possible solution and answer on questions that are brought before us. Please watch out for those in our community that are ill and not feeling well, that they may return to their normal activities in life. Please also watch over for the soldiers that are representing our community and the citizens of the United States as they undertake their tasks in continuing to provide freedom for us to do the things that we do. Also include the law enforcement and fire first responders that also set their lives on the line as we rely on them to take care of our well-being in our communities and in our homes. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me for the presentations. Thank you.
It's your career.
That?
I didn't give you any info.
Hello. Our first honoree today is Darren from Semi-Dice. Please join us up here. Darren Minter, and Semi-Dice is celebrating 40 years in the community. I'm going to let you explain what you do because it's much more technical than I am. But
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, Semi-Dice, yes, we've been in the community for over 40 years. Well, I take that back. We've been there 38, in business for 40, which we celebrated this year. And we're a microelectronic distributor. We keep it kind of quiet here in Los Al. We try to be a good neighbor to the hospital and the surrounding companies. It's been a little difficult with some of the traffic issues that we have, but I have to say that I'm very happy with our city council and city staff working on our traffic issues. So yes, it's been a good ride. I've been with the company for 23 years and have lived in the community as well for 23 years. So Los Al is a great place to be. Very, very proud to be here. And thank you for the recognition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let them get you a picture with that. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the next presentation is very bittersweet for me because I've known Dr. Herb and Lois Abrams since I was 10 years old. They were our next door neighbors here in Los Alamitos before they got wealthy and moved down to Surfside. They met me as a young 10-year-old boy on a hot August day where I was fulfilling my time by throwing dirt against their house. So Lois saw me and said, "This guy's not going to amount to much." And here it is, 50 years later, I'm the mayor, and you're right, 100%. So the Abrams have been psychologists for a long time. I met them, they were a school principal and a teacher. And much hard work, including 2 years of driving to San Diego to get their doctorates, and then they began taking care of our citizens and have personally helped several friends of mine. So please come on up. Thank you very much. You be saying that when I was hitting your house with that dirt, wasn't I? Are you speaking?
We can both say something.
Okay.
Isn't he a wonderful little boy?
Yeah.
We have really invested in the community, raising our children here. They went to all the schools, elementary, junior high, and high school. We are still visiting at Casa Youth Shelter twice a month as a pet therapy program. So this is really our roots, and we're very grateful, and I'm just so proud of this guy here.
I just want to add one addendum to what Richard said, and that was that the first time I saw him, his father was yelling at him in the backyard. But that's a while ago. And he says, "Get in the house now." Okay. I've certainly enjoyed living in Los Alamitos all these years, and Los Alamitos has been our other home. We have a practice right down here in Cattell Avenue for a long, long time, starting at 3772 and winding up at 4162. And we've enjoyed our stay in Los Alamitos. We've seen a lot of people, helped a lot of people, and that certainly has been our goal in life, to work together as partners in the field of mental health in order to create a better situation for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, and enjoy your retirement. Thank you. I'm going to turn the proclamations for Westcom over to the chairman of Westcom, our very own Dean Grose.
Thank you very much, and if I could have you ladies and gentlemen come on up. You know, public safety communications, telecommunications is the first critical contact many of us have when we're calling for assistance. There's a saying that goes along, we answer your calls, we don't know who you are, we're there to take care of you, but it's not our problem, not our issue. But I recently had the opportunity to do a sit-along. You know, they have ride-alongs with the police. I did a sit-along with a 911 dispatch center for 4 hours and really realized how critical the job is that you guys do on behalf when somebody calls in. You never are talking to somebody when they just want to chat. Well, sometimes you do, but most of the time it's really critical in the process, and you go about just handling things second nature. And the city of Los Alamitos combines with the city of Cypress and the city of Seal Beach in police dispatching with the West Cities Police Dispatch Center, also known as Westcom, down in Seal Beach. And we're delighted with the job that you guys do down there. And it's with honor that we recognize you for April 7th through the 11th. Proclaim that National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Highlight each one of you and the work that you're doing. And I have a whole script here, but I'm not going to read it because I've deviated already. Anybody want to make any comments? You're our lead, so.
We just want to thank you for recognizing the hard work that our dispatchers do. We love what we do, but there are times we do work long, hard hours, and there are ups and downs, but we do appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Any of the others? No. Thank you very much. Do we get a
Thank you.
picture here?
Okay, with much trepidation, we're going to open up oral communications. At this time, any individual in the audience may come forward to speak on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Remarks are to be limited to no more than 5 minutes per speaker. Please.
Good evening, Council. I am Stephen Hammond of Greenbrook, a former member of the suspended Los Alamitos TV Cable Commission. According to tonight's discussion item 9A, The city manager recommends that council receive and file the 6 months update progress report for LATV and use that report as a guide to provide direction regarding the role of the commission. Alexander Dumas in The Three Musketeers had Cardinal Richelieu write Madame de Winter a carte blanche, which read, "By my order and for the good of the state, the bearer has done what he has done." You granted our La Salle carte blanche to spend down Los Alamitos TV account 28 as it wished and to decide the fate of the Chartered Commission. Your eyes and ears into LATV management. Before suspension, the now defunct commission monitored LATV assets and income and advised council on expenditures and other actions. On August 15th, when prospective managers of LATV presented their proposals, council rushed to award the LATV management contract to our La Salle and to authorize purchase of undocumented equipment to prepare for October 1st sports coverage and interweb streaming. You also suspended the commission. At the October 19th council meeting, during public comment, I raised the following concerns which council ignored. Whereas the public defined the LATV equipment request the city manager said was detailed in our La Salle's management proposal, which led to its contract award. When are we going to get a running statement of needs, purposes, applications, and costs for acquired equipment? The warrants of each council meeting say about $40,000 was drained from LATV for vaguely titled items. Thousands for city program coverage and more miscellany have been charged to LATV. In fact, public records show that about $70,000 has actually been drained from the LATV account, and only about $70,000 remain. Using its comprehensive charter, providing copious guidance, the commission majority tried to make recommendations which often the city manager did not submit to council. Using common sense, a true oversight commission would advise the council about desired performance, capabilities, and programming versus available funds for public access. This report advocates publicly funded marketing advisors for an unaccountable private enterprise. Are all the other commissions treated thus? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hey, Frank.
Mr. Mayor, Council. My name's Frank Sharon. I work and represent the owners of Los Alamitos Racecourse and also the balance of Cypress Golf Club, the old golf course property. There's about 40 acres of unused golf course property. I've been employee of the race course since November of 1989. And I'm here tonight to give you guys, to let you know that we're going to be looking at master planning the balance of the golf course property and the racetrack property, which is in its entirety about 170 acres. You guys, the residents should get a invitation letter as early as tomorrow in the mail, but we wanted to make this announcement tonight. And the meeting is going to be at the Cypress Marriott, which is, it's on 5865 Catella. And it'll be Wednesday night, the 30th, and it'll begin at 6 p.m. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to have a series of meetings to discuss the best uses of the property so that the community of Los Alamitos, along with the residents of Cypress, can have some input and we can have open discussion. And the process will be, a long process as far as ultimately getting the best uses for the property that serves the community the best. Again, though, just so you guys know, the racetrack itself is in good shape. We're going to be there as long as we can, racing horses there, as we have for the last 62 years. So no immediate plans to close the racetrack. So hopefully we'll see you guys Wednesday night on the 30th at 6 p.m. down at the Cypress Marriott.
Thank you, Frank. Thanks for coming over to let us know.
You're welcome.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Feldman. I live at 11162 Bennington Street in Los Alamitos, the beautiful city of Los Alamitos, in the New Dutch Haven tract, the last tract that was built in Los Alamitos. So that's why I'm here. It's apropos before I get into my other comments, and I always tell you all, thank you for what you do. We don't always agree. We don't always like what we hear, but at least you're going to listen. So that's good. So, and I even got Dean smiling at me tonight. I'm telling you, what am I going to do? Okay. It's apropos that this gentleman did. I hope that you as a city council and as the city will allow us to be part of what goes on over there. 170 acres? Yikes. We have fought long and hard with Cottonwood. We have fought long and hard with Prologis. We've fought long and hard on this side of the, you have Carrier Row, New Dutch Haven. We're going to, wow. And then understanding that they want to develop it. We knew it's coming down the pike. But I hope that you will all look at the interests of what we do. So I'm up here. I have to, because I guess good Robert's Rules of Order, last at the moratorium meeting, my name was mentioned. And I couldn't refute anything when I stood up. And Troy, you know, you said my name, which is great. But I have to go on record. I would love to think that that agreement between Arrowhead and Cottonwood and all of us are all ironclad. But the poor, not the poor, the rich city of Cyprus has continually shown us that they do not want to honor all the time. I talked about the signal at Enterprise. If something happens, I worry about that. We walk that neighborhood as our business, and we walk our own neighborhood. I could name 300 homes that are worried about that happening again. So I hope, that was my concern. And I get where you're coming from, that I'd love things to be ironclad. You know, what's scary, and I'm not here to debate whether you guys told us or you didn't tell us. I don't know the protocol anymore of what we're able to be known, like this trucking deal over at Arrowhead. Are the constituents in the city supposed to know about this? Or is it something that happens and then we kind of know? You know, we hear all kinds of rumors out there. So I hope you take the time to refute those and say, well, no, this really did happen, or no, it didn't. Because what it does is it puts a sour taste out there for what we're all trying to accomplish. I understand that the application's already in. I understand all that good stuff. But boy, the other day, I was behind two 18-wheelers on Lexington, and I waited literally 19 minutes to turn. That's how long the traffic was at the end of Lexington. And we wanted to see the 14 trucks in this particular place. Ow. So that's just me personally. You know, we could come up and again, debate all this stuff, but there's so much happening around here that that I hope that we're part of. So, but I wanted to get my remarks on record. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Look what I got. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, city staff. My name is Michelle Clark, and I'm with Republic Services. And I'm part of your Municipal Services Management team, along with our General Manager, Matt Nicholas, and of course, Municipal Services Manager, Mark McGee. And it's an honor and a privilege to stand here before you and tell you how grateful we are for our partnership with the City of Los Alamitos. And I've certainly enjoyed all of the engagement with the community that I've done so far. And I'm here tonight to invite the entire community out to the Chamber's monthly breakfast at Griffin's on Friday, April 1st, for which I will be talking trash. The subject will be all that you wanted to know about recycling and trash, but were afraid to ask. So I look forward to seeing everyone out, and so I can squash all those myths. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, City Council, My name is Nancy Carmelich, and I'm with the Banners of Honor, our nonprofit organization here in Los Alamitos. And I have good news for all of you this evening. I'm working with Corey to get our Banners of Honor approved for a new program that we're releasing. And I just, right off the press, got a new banner that I would like to show you.
Nice.
Very nice.
So this is the front side of the banner. This is just a, this isn't the final draft, but it's very, very close to what it's going to look like. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Finally, JM. Adding value. I love it.
Bazinga.
So there we have the front side with the military character word that anyone that sponsors a banner gets to choose their word, and then their name gets to be at the bottom of the banner. And it's just beautiful. And our back side will say thank you for serving, and it's very patriotic. And it says welcome to the city of Los Alamitos on the back side. So I'm really excited about this banner. We're going to be replacing the ones on the light poles all the way down Catella, and also on Lexington. I have a really neat artwork that's not in print yet, but for Lexington and also on the Joint Forces Training Base. So really excited about it, and I'll be approaching all of you for your sponsorship for our new banners and get your name up on Catella Avenue as our city council members and staff, whoever else wants to sponsor. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you, guys.
Nancy, would you like to give out your contact information if anybody else would like to donate?
I am right now working with a web design, and we'll be up and running probably within the next 2 weeks. But I mean, I do have a cell phone. If someone would like to contact me through the cell phone, they can do that. And that's how people contacted me in the past. And anyways, and the forms will be on the website. We're going to have a PayPal account and all of that, so people can sponsor right through my website as well.
What will the website be, please?
It's, excuse me. Okay, that will be domain, forgive me. I want to get it right, because we're going to go with org, and then we're going to go .com, and
If you just want to let Brett know, we'll put it up for you also, if
I
that's
appreciate
easier.
that.
If it's undecided at this time.
Right, and I'll come back, oh, here.
Okay.
I'll
even
come
better.
back with that website on another meeting night.
Thank you.
Okay? All right, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nancy, if you have an opportunity to give me a call, I have a thought that came to me in the middle of the night.
Oh, wow. Ooh, inspiration.
People that could co-work with you to get the banners
Sponsorship?
sponsored and stuff. So,
Great, perfect.
Yeah, and
Any new insight, new ideas?
I would just reiterate again, as a Navy veteran, the community ought to applaud you for what you're doing. I think that's so honorable that you would do that. It makes our city, it sends a message to the soldiers that come back from overseas and their families that how much they really matter. So thank you.
The community actually did applaud you, so. So we're not going to hold those minutes against you, JM. You can have your full time.
Can we vote on that?
I know you guys love me. Since the items are in the consent calendar, I believe they're second to last and third to last items. You guys aren't going to allow public comment on the items themselves because they're consent calendar items, and even though if you pull them and discuss them, we don't. So one of the things that happened while all the Arrowhead stuff was going on was I made a public records request, as Councilman Edgar pointed out during the special meeting. And I got some emails and other things, and one of the emails I got really bothered me. It starts out going from our our city to a consultant. And it says, Shea Properties is proposing to construct a 2,000 square foot industrial building behind Arrowhead. I need a CEQA proposal from Bill so I can get a deposit from them to do the work. It's currently zoned industrial, probably will have some community opposition. Application is for lot line adjustment, site plan review, will include road widening on Lexington most likely. With the exception of probably will have some community pushback, it was pretty normal. Then the response was, yikes, does the city want this project? And then I would suggest writing a very honest, objective, and legally defensible EIR. That means the cost will be a little higher than an EIR for a non-controversial project, which makes one wonder, do we normally get dishonest, non-objective, and legally indefensible EIRs from this consultant because it costs less? And I would expect that the response from our city staff would have been, hey, we want the best. We want to make sure this is done right. The response was, it is zoned for industrial, why an EIR? In the end of this, the staff is asking for a mitigated negative declaration, the price for a mitigated negative declaration, which is about the exact antithesis of what was recommended by the consultant as a very honest, objective, and legally defensible EIR. This made me wonder, has this been going on for a while? So while I was doing all the Arrowhead research, I noticed, for instance, the thing you're discussing tonight about zoning and kicking it back to the Planning Commission and for them to figure out what should be in an industrial zone in our city. We knew about this problem when we were doing the general plan. It was mentioned a number of times by the Planning Commission, yet they couldn't put it on their own agenda because, as we've been told a million times, the way to get something on the agenda is either it goes over the counter or it comes from you. But you guys weren't made aware this was a problem that should be put on the agenda. City staff wasn't doing their job. They were slow walking it because if they had done this in May when we approved the general plan, it wouldn't have been an issue in November when Arrowhead decided they were going to put something on there we don't want. I'm upset. My city council's being run by my city staff. I don't elect them. They don't represent me. You do. I may not always agree with you, as Troy will be more than happy to tell everybody in the world. And that's okay. That's fine. We can have differences of opinion. But they work for us. And when they give you the finger by slow walking stuff and not doing their jobs and not protecting us, you can't do your job to protect us. I'm livid. I am furious. I have been given the finger indirectly because they're playing you. Your city staff is treating you disrespectfully, and that means they're disrespecting our community. It's time for you guys to get on top of it. I mean, now I'm wondering, how much did they know about what you just heard tonight and I got today, earlier today, about the fact that we want retail on the Arrowhead lot, and we're going to end up with retail more retail in Cypress, but not in our Arrowhead lot. We're getting a trucking center. It's time for you guys to take control. I don't know if they knew about this and how long ago they might have known about it. Please, get control of your staff. Don't let them play you anymore. I'm tired of getting played indirectly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nancy?
It's bannersofhonor.com.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm back. I'm Darren Minter. I live at 11082 Saratoga Drive here in Los Alamitos. And as you all know, they were here earlier, I also work here in the community. And my reason for standing here right now is very simple, and that is to thank my mayor and my city council and city staff. I've spent some time the last couple of weeks with many of you, and I appreciate not only the time, the effort, the sincerity. I like this working together. I don't, at least in my experiences, see that the city staff is giving anyone the finger, and I certainly haven't seen anything nefarious or underhanded. I think everyone here is doing their level best, and I appreciate it. We can all have differences of opinion, but also I'm here to show my respect and my profound gratefulness for the effort you do. It's got to be tough at times, very tough. And so I think I speak for several friends and people that live here in the community. People don't have time to come to a city council meeting. They don't like getting up and talking in front of people. I don't necessarily either, but I felt it was important to also say I think it's lovely of the community and the harmony I'm seeing. I think working together is much better than what we've seen sometimes in the past. There hasn't been harmony up on our city council. There hasn't been harmony between city council sometimes and our police department and back and forth. I think it's lovely right now. Brett, I just think you're the bomb. Wonderful guy, wonderful man. Just doing your damnedest, excuse me, for some pretty tough situations that we're facing the community with traffic and parking. And again, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate. And the communication, I believe, has been excellent. Besides the city council meetings, there's all kinds of ways to get informed, which I think there's an issue with people taking the time to get informed, to understand what's happening. And so if people would take a little bit more time, I think once they gain that knowledge, there won't be the wolf behind, the door. Or at least sometimes that's what I'm kind of hearing. But again, thank you very much, Stephen. You've been also wonderful, very supportive of what's happening at Summit Ice and that surrounding area with the traffic. And all I can say is God bless you all, because you're not going to be able to please everyone. And you may not end up pleasing Summit Ice with the decisions that are made with the parking, but we'll live with it and we'll work with it. And we'll work together and be appreciative of your efforts. Okay? And thank you also to the police department. Sorry. Your officers over the years have been wonderful. We've had lots of false alarms. We've had a few issues, but they've always been Johnny on the spot. They've been very supportive, and they're terrific. A lot of new faces. And so I'm hoping that, maybe a coffee with the cop or something like that could be done, because there's a lot of us in the community that don't recognize a lot of the officers that haven't been with you very long. And so you're a new face, too, so we're looking forward to getting to know you as well. So thank you and your officers for their efforts. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, my God. We're going to take a 5-minute break on that happy note. We are on number 7, warrants. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to move.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Edgar.
Aye.
Councilmember Grose.
Aye.
Councilmember Kusamoto.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink.
Aye.
Mayor Murphy.
Aye. Consent calendar. All consent calendar items may be acted upon by one motion unless a council member requests separate action on a specific item. Anything? Warren? Troy?
Yeah, I'd like to pull item E, J, and K.
Dean?
I'd like to pull C. And I'd like to recuse myself on J and K when you get to that,
Okay.
because I have property very close to that location, and it would be inappropriate for me to be involved in that discussion
Thank you. Michelle?
for the city attorney.
Okay, we'll start with C then.
Do we want to move the balance?
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll move the balance.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Dean, would you like a staff report on C?
I asked city staff about this prior to the meeting, and I have received some response to it. It talks about And in answer to the staff report, I don't think so at this particular point. It talks about establishing a mission, a vision, core values for the city, as well as current goals and objectives. Councilmember Edgar, way back, and it's stretching my memory, we went through something very similar to this when you and I were first elected to the council over at the base. And I asked if we had a current mission, vision, and core values. And what I got was a thick document that was the community plan that was done prior to the time we got on council. I think the city hired somebody to do that. We're not able apparently to find anything. And do you have a recollection of what came out of that meeting? Didn't we establish something similar to that at that time?
Yeah, we did. We developed the mission statement, the vision, and like 8 objectives that we wanted to accomplish. I would say, Dean, those were back in the days that Darren talked about, that the council was having a little bit of a hard time working together. And I'd say probably a bigger objective was to try to get us out of here and see if we could work a little bit together there.
Okay.
I didn't think that the outcome was super substantive, and but we've kind of used that foundation. I think every year too, what we do when we do the budget is we kind of look at the objectives of what the department's trying to do, but we don't get to the strategic level. And what I read in the proposal was that the city manager, you know, in his reign, it seems, and staff is trying to get us to a more strategic view. And I'll stop there because I had other comments, but that was my reaction to.
I just thought that might be a base starting point if it hasn't been done in between, and it might be something that staff can either look up. I believe that was during the days when Lucy Surlette,
2007.
Romero Surlette was a city manager, and it predates most everybody else that we have. So if we can find that, that might be the basis to get things started. That was the main reason for pulling this, was to have a little discussion on it.
Thank you. Did you have a comment?
No, I have a copy of that, but I
Oh,
if that I mean, the only comment I have on this is that I think with all the stuff that was going on, I wasn't sure if you pulled it because you were going to oppose this or whether.
Oh, no,
so
no, no.
I think I'll just save what I was going to say since we're going to go ahead and prove it.
And I'll go ahead and move approval for that item.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So C is approved. Go on to E. Troy?
Yeah, so agenda item E is the decertification of the City Employee Association and petition to be represented by the Teamsters Local 911. So this is a process that I actually tried to get some information on this before the City Council meeting because I didn't want to get into it too much detail here. But before I asked for a staff report to inform the city, I would just say there's a little bit of history. This is the union that represents a certain subgroup of the employees within our city, and it's called the CEA. And the CEA is a standalone. It's not part of a brotherhood or organization outside of Los Alamitos. It is really specifically for Los Al, for a certain classification of folks. Like Dean said, in 2006, when we came on board, at that point, there was a lot of stuff going on with the unions. And a couple years after that, they had the Teamsters come in and work with them. So Gregorio, who was their business representative, a really good guy, and a guy that was, and I say good because he was very professional going through. We've had some pretty tough discussions and union discussions, both on all 3 of the groups that we deal with, and they were very top shelf guys. So my issue isn't the decertification and whether it's an appropriate. I just don't have enough history in this agenda item, and specifically when I pushed on our city staff, and I quite honestly, you guys, I don't think have the history, at least at that point. And the part of the history that I'm concerned about is that we've negotiated in good faith and we've come together on a bunch of different contracts over the years. And we were dealing with Gregorio thinking that they were represented already by the faction of the Teamsters. What I'm confused about is now they're trying to decertify and really join the Teamsters now. And I guess I don't understand the nuance of why we're redoing that. And kind couple other things that are kind of going on within the city that are behind the scenes. I can't tell if there was more to this, situation. When you start having labor, I don't know, to look at this as just a administrative task or some sort of unrest going on. And this council's been totally dedicated to stability and to act like a big city, even though we're little. And so just professionally, wanted to ask these questions, Brett, of you, and see if there's any way we can get some response from maybe you or the union representatives, either the CEA or the Teamsters.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Edgar and City Council. Based on your questions and feedback and a couple of other questions that we received along the way on this particular item, the representative from the Teamsters, Gregorio, as you mentioned, he was not able to be here tonight, but we were able to speak with him right before this meeting and get some additional history and information and be able to provide that to you in addition to what's in the staff report tonight. And my voice is continuing to fade, but I'm going to have Jason Alamam give the summary of what additional history we've been able to provide and fill in what we're doing. This is an administrative task. I mean, there's nothing that we know of behind the scenes that's bringing this item forward. And so Jason can explain both the history and fill in the items that you wanted to supplement, as well as explain what's in the staff report itself.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. So the CEA has used Teamsters Local 911 on a consulting basis since approximately 2007. The CEA desires for Teamsters Local 911 to be their sole and exclusive representative. So currently, the CEA, they represent themselves solely and exclusively. However, they use local Teamsters 911 as like I said, on a contractual basis for legal purposes and for work-related complaints. So they actually have a service agreement that establishes that relationship between the CEA and Teamsters. If they decertify from the CEA, that organization will dissolve and they will officially become Teamster members. And by becoming officially Teamster members, the city employees will be afforded certain benefits and rights afforded to them. For example, they're afforded life insurance benefits and things of that nature. And so it's our understanding this is more of an administrative change to really just officially become part of Teamsters. And Gregorio, as we discussed with him earlier today, will still be involved in the mix. It just will alleviate our local group of employees from having to administer the union on their own, having to elect a president from one of their own members. They'll now be able to pull from a bigger resource, a bigger organization, if you will. They won't have to manage their own bank account and manage their own bylaws. They'll be afforded those rights and procedures through Teamsters Local 911.
So in that situation for the last, since 2007, the CEA, again, maybe for the community's benefit, can you talk about the types of jobs that are embodied in the CEA as a skill or classification?
Yep. I'll just read the positions. Accountant, assistant planner, associate planner, building official, code enforcement officer, department secretary, finance assistant, maintenance foreman, maintenance worker, master mechanic, planning aide, receptionist, records clerk, records specialist, recreation coordinator, secretary, senior finance assistant, senior maintenance worker. So basically non-public safety, full-time city employees in various departments, approximately 19 employees.
Okay. And today the CEA, like you said, they're an entity just within Los Alamitos. They basically have a hierarchy that somebody is their president. Who's their current president?
Kim Engel, the accountant.
Okay. And the union dues for that organization, and this is where I become unclear. So in the warrants, we go through a union due process, probably through their salary deductions. They pay the union dues through that process. That goes, you're saying, internally to CEA, And then how does the money over the last 8 or 9 years end up to the Teamsters? Or
Right.
because, like I said, we've been dealing with the Teamsters on the front end, but I wasn't aware of the transfer of money behind the scene.
So every pay period, an amount is withdrawn from the employee's paycheck, and those amounts are remitted to a bank account set up for the CEA electronically. So we transfer money to the CEA in a separate bank account that's maintained by them, and it's not accounted for by the city in the city's accounting records, nor do we have copies of statements. Those elected members of the union, of the local CEA, maintain that account, have custody of that account, and then cut checks out of that account, for example, to Teamsters Local 911 on a contractual basis for any services rendered.
Okay. And then within the staff report, there was the resolution 1532 that talked about really what is the city council's responsibility? Why are you bringing the decertification to the city council versus just if it's an administrative action? And I didn't see within, I'm not trying to lead you. So when I went through 1532, I had a hard time. I was just trying to find specifically.
No, I appreciate that. So section 6 of the resolution 1532 speaks to the procedures that the organization must follow when they file a recognition petition. And in this case, there's two things going on. There's a decertification, and those procedures are set forth in section 13 of what we call the EEOR. That's the Employer-Employee Organization Relations Procedures, or resolution 1532. So section 13 sets forth the procedures to decertify and no longer be associated with the CEA. Section 6 sets forth the procedures that they must follow to form a new union, in this case to be formally recognized as part of Teamsters Local 911. And then following that, section 7 outlines the city's response to the recognition petition. So the city has to determine whether there has been compliance with the requirements of section 6, and then determine whether the proposed representation is an appropriate unit. And that's where it refers to section 8, and that's where the city council comes into play. So section 8 indicates that the city council is responsible for determining whether or not the proposed unit is an appropriate unit. An appropriate unit is defined as a unit of employee classes or positions whereby there is a community of interest among such employees. And since in 1972 the same group of employees was determined by the city council to be an appropriate unit, and since it's the same group of employees that were established in 1972, and staff has looked at the makeup, staff believes that the proposed unit of employee classes and positions are an appropriate unit since the employees generally have the same employment benefits, hours of work, and other terms and conditions of employment.
Okay. The current agreement that we put in place is effective through April, I believe, of 2018. A really good piece of work that I think that the council and the city staff worked together with I thought the Teamsters, but now the CEA. Any risk on some sort of a reopening? And I'm probably risk reaffirming to the public that, this is not, there's not more to this than what it appears in the staff report.
Gary, do you want to add in on the legal aspect of that?
Sure. There is no risk. It's very clear under the law that the new organization steps right into the shoes of the CEA, and that the employees are subject to everything that we've already negotiated.
Okay. Mayor, those are the only questions I had.
Anybody else?
I had a couple, and I think that's where the confusion comes in. It's talking about the decertification, and the letter is from the union. And I was on council when this first came up, and I've been led to believe the Teamsters have been representing them all along. That's who we've negotiated with and everything else. And in talking with one of the past presidents of the CEA, they apparently were were working together and the union was representing them. So the decertification is of the CEA, and that will no longer exist from the standpoint of that organization will not have any rights, privileges representing the employees. Everything goes over to the Teamsters. Is that a for an employee applying for any of those 19 positions, do they have to join the union, or do they have that option?
Well, it's two different things. The decertification is of the CEA, and then that, if this is approved, that then establishes the next 30-day period, and then there's an election that will be held. Employees coming into the association, whoever is the representative, there are certain things, certain rights that employees would have to contribute their dues to other organizations, and we could give you additional information as a follow-up to that. But basically, they would be in the association, which whoever the new representative is, or the existing representative.
I guess that's just where the confusion came in, is from the previous, I was not aware that CEA was still functioning, and apparently they have been. So, okay. I have no further questions.
Okay. You wanna move that one?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and move the item.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? We'll go on to J.
And I'll recuse myself
Okay,
for
thank you, Dean.
J and K, but for information, Channel 3 is not broadcasting the meeting per a Time Warner subscriber. I don't know who handles that, but
Before you pull this one, so. what
Yeah,
was-
I pulled it to get Dean off the dais. No, yeah, now we can close this stuff off. Yeah. So item J first, staff report, just please to let the community know the item, that what was pulled and kind of what we're trying to achieve there.
Hey, thank you, Mayor and City Council. The Development Services Director, Stephen Mendoza, can go through a brief staff report on what this item is about.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and thank you, Brett. The city's received a request to place the property owner at 4411 Catella Avenue on notice that they may be in violation of the Subdivision Map Act. The investigation of the issues related to the violation and also their response will take and involve a number of different departments in sorting through the response. It'll take some work by title, city attorney, myself, Dave Hunt, the city engineer, and we wanted to make sure that council was aware of this and made sure that we had the appropriate funding to do the investigation and also the response. After they come back with a response, there'll probably be some detailed analysis necessary. And with that, we wanted to make sure that the council was in agreement of us spending what we think up to $9,050 thus far for the enforcement of the Subdivision Map Act issue.
All right, thank you. So the reason why I brought this item up is that there is a couple different items that are going on this agenda and a couple different meetings that we've had that are kind of circling around the same issue, which is this address, which is Arrowhead. And we had the moratorium tribe when we went through the discussion for the special meeting that we had at the community center. And, this is one of the areas I think that, up here on the council, we have a great working relationship. We just have probably a little bit different view, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to give my perspective on this. If you look at this thing procedurally, this item is just asking the city council to come through and basically, hey guys, we want to charge $9,050. Are you guys good with that? And my knee-jerk reaction to that is that the city manager has a spending threshold of $10,000 that he could use his right to spend without even bringing it to us. And there is money in the budget that it talks about that we have for our legal fees, which a lot of this probably money is focused on trying to cover Our lawyer gets paid as an external contract type situation. And so, again, just procedurally, I struggle with why. You heard my question on the last item, which was, why are you bringing this to us? Is this a policy issue? We don't run the day-to-day here. We give direction, and they let the city run what they do. This item, when I see something like this, it makes me think that staff is starting to struggle because they're starting to spend a lot of time and money on something, and they're not sure that the council is either completely on board, because if there was no problem up here, the city manager should be able to go and just spend this money. This is almost just bringing it up to bring it up. So I guess my point is, for $9,000, for the city manager on your side, either we've already spent over what would be a reasonable amount of money to handle this, or this is including all the money that we spent to this point. Just so I'm clear what we're talking about here, is this an incremental $9,000 on top of what we've already spent, or where are we?
Yeah, yes, this is an incremental $9,000 on top. It requires appropriation of funds to, as Stephen had mentioned, the next steps. So the letter, if this is approved, the letter goes out to the property owner and the staff. We get feedback back and then do the research that's required, that's laid out in the staff report with the attorney and the engineer and the map.
Can I ask though, we aren't approving a letter going out here. We're approving you to have budget to do whatever you're going to do.
Yes, that's correct.
So this action this is a budget move that we're calling it in the name of a zoning or a subdivision map act issue. Can we talk a little bit about that issue and really what is it and how did it get to this point?
Okay, I think Stephen give a little more background in terms
Certainly.
of
The city was presented with a letter from a constituent asking the city to enforce our code, and that there is a suspicion that there's a subdivision map act. Provided a bunch of information regarding dates and recordation dates and deeds. But taking it at the face value, we owe it to everybody to do our due diligence and to dig into this issue and spend the appropriate funds to dig into this issue. Again, it's not a budgeted item. We weren't asked in a council meeting to do this task like we are some things. So because it was outside of this room, we want to make sure the entire council's okay with this kind of funding.
So generically, if I had an issue, or not me, if somebody in our city had an issue and brought it up, the issue would get submitted through the normal channel, and then the city would go through a evaluation of that and give a response, and we'd be done. We wouldn't normally have a budget issue associated with you guys carrying out your job. Did this issue get submitted to the city and there was an initial response and we just didn't like the answer?
No, we haven't responded yet. We have not responded to the request yet. This is much like a code enforcement case. But a code enforcement case, you're not going to spend $9,000 investigating without going to your boss and going to your city council. So we find out there's a violation. You investigate the violation, you document the violation, and then you put the owner on notice of whether it's a notice of violation or a ticket. And you continue, but you're certainly not using $9,000 of a city attorney on a code enforcement case.
Okay. So let me just stop then with you, city attorney. So the item gets submitted to City Hall, you get it, and you make a preliminary evaluation. Have you completed a preliminary evaluation on this item?
Yes.
Okay.
Preliminary evaluation, although I wouldn't feel comfortable going to a hearing, which is what will be scheduled, without investigating further and without researching it further.
So have you provided your preliminary evaluation to anybody?
I've discussed it with city manager and Mr. Mendoza at length.
So is this item too complex for your law firm to handle? I mean, why are we going past your preliminary evaluation at this point? I'm familiar with the issue. It seems like it's an interpretive issue on a tract map issue that's 100 years old. So why isn't it cut and dry?
Because there are First of all, there have been several state statutes that affect this. It's there are a lot of title issues that are pretty complex as to whether the property is legal, whether it's been legally divided, and you know, our last statement for attorney services included an awful lot of money spent researching it without prior council approval. And so I'm not comfortable, I wasn't comfortable incurring a lot more in attorney's fees without the whole council at least being made aware of it and, you know, getting sort of an appropriation so that you know what it's going to cost as we continue.
So this really isn't an issue about a budget. It's an issue that you don't feel that you have complete authority by the council to continue to spend money in this direction?
That's my issue, and I think the attorney's fees part of this is not the bulk of it. It's the title insurance company that we need to engage possibly to investigate. It's the staff time and so forth. And all in all, it just seemed like a good idea to present it to the city council rather than have staff run amok and do these things without the council knowing. Because if we did it the other way and then came back and said, well, we spent $9,000 investigating this and the council hadn't, if not authorized, at least known about it, we would be properly criticized. So.
Yeah, again, just the challenge that I'm having with this is, you know, the message underlying here is we're talking about a company that's been in our community for a long time, Arrowhead. There's no doubt there's something afoot that they're trying to do. There's no doubt, as JM had talked about, that the city did a general plan update that we hadn't done for 15 plus years. And there's no doubt that there's some open items that didn't get closed off. But the fact is that we've put this process in place to allow residents to come to City Hall, allow businesses to come to City Hall, and be able to depend on a process that they would be treated fairly, and we wouldn't change the rules on them, and we wouldn't try and go after them for certain things just because we don't like that project. I've said this before, I'm neutral on the project, but this starts to predispose a judgment on a project that hasn't even made it to us yet. And we're taking bits of it one bite at a time. So to me, I really struggle with us continuing down this path. I mean, to be honest, the preliminary evaluation, you know, I did look at the details. It's an interpretive one. The issue is, well, are you going to file a misdemeanor charge against one of the businesses in our community if they're incorrect? I think that's pretty far-fetched. I mean, no, I wouldn't, you know. Anyway, I'm not even going to say what direction I'd go, but I just think it's kind of, we're going a little too far, a little bit government overreach here, and I'm really struggling with this. You know, I'm talking it out loud because I just think that the community deserves to know that, and I'm saying specifically the community that really wants this project shut down, that really wanted a moratorium. The council members that we tried to get this into closed session and talk about it, and it was inappropriate. We ended up being done with this. We've tried to do the moratorium meeting we've had. There's 2 items on this agenda. We really dislike this project, but I still think this is the wrong way to do it. And think about it, if you're a resident and you come to City Hall and somebody that lives across the street from you sees that you're getting ready to do this unbelievably currently approved home addition in your house. It's going to make it really big. But that person has a lot of influence in the community, so they start going and poking at you as you start to put this thing through a process that you really want to do, and you can do it because the rules say you can do it. It never gets its fair trial through the process because that, you know, we pick losers and winners before they even get in the process. I don't think it's a level playing field for residents. I don't think it's for this issue. It's for, you know, a business owner and potentially a developer in the other parcel. So for those reasons, I honestly struggle, and I can't support the appropriation of funds. It's funny that we're going to talk about it in the context of money instead of just call it what it is. But Again, Mayor, that's all I have for this item, and I'll be recording a no vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Warren?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, I guess a little, I want to get clarification from the city manager. And I just spoke with you last Friday about this matter, so I'm kind of surprised at some of the response you gave to Councilmember Edgar. But I think I heard you say that any kind of notification to any property owner is contingent on getting this approved and the funding. Is that what you said? Is that true?
No, I didn't say it's contingent. I'm saying the purpose of this from staff bringing it forward is to get an appropriation. We have that potential letter that's out there. We have significant steps that are going to go forward. I mean, there is a concern on the city attorney budget.
Understand. Okay.
Side of things.
So I want to get clarity on that. So it's not contingent. So if this gets shot down in terms of funding, right, appropriation, as Councilmember Edgar said, it's well within your spending limit. So you can actually approve this. I mean, spend this without coming to the council. So
it would if we spend it, we're going to be over budget. That's what we're saying.
Understand. But you've been very good about underrunning in other areas, and I have no doubt that you can do that as well, right, within the confines. So, all right, that's one item. The other part that I want to get clarity on from Mr. Mendoza is that no work would happen until after information is provided back, and I think you just said something totally different. You're going to do a pre-investigation, so I want to get clarity on that one.
No, my worry is we will put them on notice. They'll have 15 days to get back to me. Then we'll have a public meeting of the subdivision committee, and in that room, I have to be right. In that room, the city cannot have egg on its face of shaking a finger at a business in our city without knowing that their response or the information in the request is correct.
Okay, so what you told me then Friday, that no work would happen until information comes back from the respondent, is not true.
Yeah, it is. I will not be diving into the response until I get the response.
Got it. Okay, so that's when the appropriation is needed to be spent.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
gonna. Yeah, and
Okay, I just want to make sure I get clarity. That's because I thought I heard you say something else.
Yeah.
So if there is no response, there is no need to expend the money. Simply put.
well, no. I'm gonna have to be prepared in that meeting, whether they respond or not. If I have a meeting accusing somebody of not being accurate, and they're gonna take that letter sentence by sentence and say how it's wrong, I need to have my ducks in a row before I walk into that meeting.
So let's kind of go through the timeline, right? It's following the Subdivision Map Act, right, Mr. City Attorney? That's what's in play here, right? The requirements, which has a very specific timeline.
Yes.
Right. So notice goes out. 15 days. The respondent gets to respond. If there's no response, then there's some actions that get to be taken. And then once that happens, if there is a response, then what I was understanding is that within that 15-day window, you would have something to analyze. So that's not true.
I will have some, if there is a response.
Okay.
Yeah, I will have something to analyze.
Okay,
I'll
there
have
you go.
7 commissioners looking to me and at the city of knowing what they're talking about.
Okay.
And right now, we do not know everything about the title on this property.
Okay, very good. I just want to get clarity on that. And then I think to the city attorney, in our discussions, I think it was clear, right, in terms of the this is to prepare for any eventual hearing.
Yes.
Right. So it's not the pre-investigation or anything like that. It's the hearing. Okay. I just want to get that clarity. And then there are 2 processes that could be followed. Right. So I want to go note on the record. We do have our own city code, 16.38, which does specify a very detailed process step for instances like this. And in your analysis, that is not the one that we need to follow. It is the Subdivision Map Act of 499.36.
I'll take your word for it.
Yeah, okay. But that's your
Yes,
assessment.
the Subdivision Map Act was adopted by the state. It applies to all cities within the state, even cities like us, like the city of Los Alamitos, which are not general law cities. And there's a case where one line of it specifically said that. So,
Thank you. No other questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Shelley?
I just had one quick question, because I'm not real up on my land skills yet. If they are found in violation, what are the penalties? What are the repercussions? What happens at that point?
We will record a notice of violation on their property until they cure it, and then it would be released. They can cure it through a parcel map and other providing other information that could help us clear up title.
And the violation will prevent them from selling, developing, remodeling anything on their land?
Borrowing against, possibly. It depends how the individual lenders and/or appraisers look at those kind of things. They'll each look at them with their own eyes. It has the potential. I can't say it will stop them from borrowing, but it has the potential.
temporarily. It's not permanent. It's something that they'll be able to cure.
Carrie, just to make sure, could you confirm that 1638 does say that if someone reports the violation, that we must do certain things?
If someone reports a violation, I mean, I can't say that if somebody makes something up, we have to do anything.
All right.
But, if we have reason to believe that they may be correct, then we're obligated to conform to the procedures basically in the Subdivision Map Act.
Okay, but the city code really doesn't give any leeway it says you must do certain things, correct?
Right, but the city code is preempted by the Subdivision Map Act.
That's my next question. Okay, so what does the Subdivision Map Act say?
It says that, I don't have it in front of me, but basically the procedure that we're proposing, that staff is proposing, be engaged in, which is the 15 days, the notice, the 15 days to respond, the hearing within 30 days before either the subdivision committee or the city council, and proceed from there.
Okay.
So we have a subdivision committee, which probably doesn't get much use, so that's the appropriate place to start.
Who is the subdivision committee?
It's the Planning Commission.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's all I have. You've already voted. Anybody else have any comments? I'll make a motion to authorize the appropriation of $9,000 for the general fund. $9,050.
A second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, 3-1. Okay, Troy, you had brought forward K also?
Yeah. So I'll save the preamble because you heard that in the last one. But so the additional item, so item number K is the council initiation of the general plan amendment. So Brad or city manager, I'm just going to ask for just a quick staff report so the community has an understanding of what we're about ready to talk about.
Okay, I'll have the Development Services Director, Stephen Mendoza, go through the report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. This is a council initiation of a general plan amendment, and once that's done, a zoning amendment of 4 numbered parcels at 4411 Catella, parcel numbers 242, 212, 08, 09, 10, and 11, from the current general plan designation of planned industrial with retail overlay to retail business, and then amend the zoning map from planned light industrial with retail overlay to general commercial. And that's what's being proposed tonight. Council there's 2 ways of starting a general plan, is either somebody apply for a general plan amendment or initiation via council resolution. So tonight that resolution is in front of you to move this forward.
Great. Thank you. So, so the item or the issue that I have with this item is in the last meeting that we had at the community center, we had talked through the item of a moratorium in general. We found through a lot of the discussions that it was pretty specific to this piece of property, but then we kind of had an out clause in that agenda item, which was that we could basically do the moratorium or we could go through the second scenario, which is to send this potential issue to the Planning Commission to have it evaluated. When it gets sent to the Planning Commission, it goes to the Planning Commission as a generic item, meaning take a look across the entire city of all the industrial areas and evaluate use items that could be in conflict with what the desire of the council, the desire of the commission, the Planning Commission, and the desire of the community is. And that process would start. We voted unanimously to do that. We didn't take on the moratorium. My issue with this item is that item K is very similar to the item that we just took on when we went through that discussion 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ago, whenever that special meeting was, sending it to the Planning Commission. The only difference is this one is specific to an address. So say, you know what, I'm really trying to find a middle ground with my colleagues that brought this thing through to find out, you know, I need to know what is the difference between what we did 2 weeks ago versus what we're doing tonight, versus tonight we're putting a specific address on it called Arrowhead. And so I just would like to have a better understanding, because it kind of feels like we're almost indirectly voting on this project before it comes before us. And again, it just does not feel right to me. So, City Manager, can we talk a little bit about the differences between item K on tonight's agenda and the item that was the second item, course of action in the moratorium discussion 2 weeks ago?
Okay, yeah, the discussion 2 weeks ago, the two items, as you mentioned, Councilmember Edgar, the first item was the consideration of a moratorium on the industrial zone, and that item did not move forward. The second item was a consideration of a resolution of intent to direct the Planning Commission to review all of the uses within the industrial zone. That item did, as you say, move forward unanimously, and staff then took that item and publicly noticed it and publicized it, and that is going to be on the Planning Commission agenda for Wednesday night for consideration. This item, that was all uses, so the Planning Commission will consider all of the uses within the industrial zone. And this item that's before you tonight is consideration to initiate a general plan amendment specific to the Arrowhead address, 4411 Catella, and the 4 parcels that are associated with it. So the item before was a citywide, consider all the uses within the industrial zone. This, it would, if it moves forward, and we can describe the process, Stephen can go through the process, that if it moves forward, what the steps would take place and how long the estimated time would take. The first opportunity for the Planning Commission to hear this item would be at their April meeting.
So the Arrowhead and/or the developers have submitted an application that was established, as a matter of fact, in the last meeting on January 28th. What happens to their application as they go through the process at this point?
Unless that application is withdrawn, that continues to be processed. So, Stephen, you want to talk about the steps of the process of that application?
Continue in the process, although it's in a holding pattern now because they've never responded to their letter of incomplete. So we're not working on it. We're not expelling any staff time processing their application. We're not reviewing hydrology reports or anything like that until we get money from them or they respond to their letter of incompleteness. So the normal process for the application would be to go through, get to a complete application, make sure they have filed for all the accurate things, make sure they file for the parcel map that we requested them to do so instead of the lot line adjustment, and move it forward for an environmental review. Environmental review will begin after I get a deposit from them to pay for the entire environmental document, and then a reimbursement agreement will come to the city council to consider that. That way we're making sure we're using their funds.
Point of order. Are you describing how the general plan amendment happens?
No, I'm describing the application process for the applicant.
I misunderstood what you were asking. Was it the application process or the general plan amendment process? No, that was the application process. That's where
Pardon me,
Councilmember
I
Edgar
stand
had
corrected. Thank you.
led me to that.
And once the environmental document is done, we'll also be going through analyzing the zoning, which we don't know yet. It could be a moving target. So we're going to have to make some considerations in that and analyze it. And then it would first go to the Planning Commission and the City Council. There'd be scoping meetings prior to drafting an environmental document for it as well, though, to take public testimony before you start drafting the document, much like the hospital plan.
So the nuance that I realized after the meeting is that when we say that the application is in process and we're treating it fairly and letting it work and none of this stuff matters, but the nuance is it doesn't matter really until we try to approve whatever comes out of that process. Because if we change the rule halfway in the middle to the rule specifically that we're talking about here, which is the zoning associated with this, this thing never makes it out of the application process. The good news is we didn't kill it straight up through the application process, but indirectly the poison pill is in there, and you know, and they would see that as a developer. And by the way, to the community, I'm not a fan of this. I'm not talked to one person at Arrowhead. I'm defending the process, and I'm just trying to see, are we being fair in this process? And so that's what I'm struggling with is. It just seems like, again, a little bit overreach. I mean, these people, I'm sure, are smart and even see the action tonight as just another notch of this is probably a bad place to do a project. But the free market would then kind of determine that it's going to be either too expensive or a waste of money. The fact you haven't got a deposit yet tells me that they're probably reconsidering this process to even start it. And again, just so I'm clear in my position, I believe in the process. I believe that it weeds out the bad projects, and I also believe that developers and business people are smart enough to not throw money at a bad project. So, you know, again, I'm going to vote no on this, but I'm supportive of trying to have the process work its way out. I think it would have come to the right answer. And again, I'm probably more concerned as a resident and a business owner that's got to make investments all over the place, that I've got to have a dependable process. I can't have somebody change the rules on me halfway in. And again, so I'm not taking any position on the project good or bad, but I just would say I can't support this because of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Before my colleagues who write this speak, could I just, Troy, I just want to clarify in the moratorium, in my mind,
Sure.
is Warren and I, we looked at the moratorium as being the horse was already out of the barn the first time. Shea, we were told unequivocally that Shea's application was in under the wire. The moratorium did not affect them. Okay, so we brought the moratorium forward to say, in the future, we want to look at these uses before any more projects that we know the community is against, before that they even get started. But the moratorium had nothing to do with Shea, because we were told that Shea was already, their application was in, they were under the wire, their process would continue no matter what. There was a little equivocation at the moratorium meeting, but it really turned out that even if they were delayed 3-4 months, it really was not going to affect their project. By the time they got done, the moratorium would have been lifted anyway. But I just wanted to clarify to you that we worked under the assumption that Shea was not affected by the moratorium. That was the purpose, was Shea was already done. We want to make sure that other projects, and I'm sure you've looked at the uses and have 5 or 10 that you think, oh, I wouldn't want this either. But that was the purpose of the moratorium, was to look at the city as general. It really had nothing to do with Shea, because as I keep repeating, Shea was already, they were gone. They were already in the process. And once you're in the process, you're good.
So Rich, or Mayor, when you go through and you have the moratorium doesn't affect process, it affects approval. So in that window, and I'm with you, so you're saying, hey, look, the moratorium is for a limited time. You can't approve any projects.
Yeah.
So the process continues. So your thought is, and then they pop out of the 90-day moratorium, or we don't extend it another 90, or we don't change the rules in there, they're kind of, I mean, think about it. You're a developer. You go through the process. You then have to wait and then wait and then wait. it doesn't seem like that would be a process that you would want to subject yourself to if you get in and all of a sudden they're like changing the rules on you.
Well, we weren't changing the rules. See, the moratorium had nothing to do with Shea from our point of view. It was already a done deal, and Warren's shaking his head in agreement with me, that it was already a done deal as far as we were told. And believe me, Brett can tell you, I asked this question 10 times. Is Shea fine? And was told yes. That they're under the wire, nothing, so they weren't even really part of the discussion. You took the position there was an indirect attack on Shea, for lack of a better word. But I just want to make clear that was not the purpose. That the purpose was to allow no other projects for a short period of time while the Planning Commission looked at all the zoning, especially in the PM zone, which seemed to be the most egregious. Okay? So why don't I let the authors speak?
If I go,
Okay,
so
please.
I think one of the things, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilmember Edgar, your comments. So just to be sure and certain as to my intent on this one, so I think Councilmember Edgar, you might read too much into this, but I really don't like the notion of this retail overlay. It was to my surprise that it really does basically nothing. And I'll say that again. The retail overlay does nothing. I've confirmed that with both the city manager and the development director, that it does nothing. It doesn't steer. It allows a fork in the road for anybody who owns that piece of land. So really the intent of this thing is, let's get rid of it. It doesn't do what we want it to do. Let's get rid of it. Now, I've said this in private. I'll say this here. I don't really like retail. I think retail brings traffic. It brings other kinds of things that we don't like. And it's all for that 1 cent of $1 spent on something that's taxable. So I know what the intent of the community is. I respect that. I honor that. But personally speaking, to do all this, to get 1 penny of $1 spent, maybe a lot of traffic we have to endure. So I think there's those type of issues. But I will support it because a retail zone, because I think that's what I know that's what the community wants, and that's what we're trying to do here next door, same type of thing. But some of the unintended consequences, if a grocery store goes in there, we don't tax food, so I think there's a little bit of a unintended consequence of going retail, so you have to watch out for that. But the real purpose of this is send it back to the Planning Commission and have them do the job right. Don't give this kind of one or the other. Make it one or the other, and that's what I really want to see out of this. And so it'll be up to that body who went through this one time. And now they have more information, and they have, I guess, a realization that this doesn't do what the community wants, and maybe it stays PM. And I'm actually good if it stays PM, and I'll see what the commission sends back to us, and that's why I wanted this to go back to them. Again, this is the only place that has the retail overlay. Is that correct, City Manager?
Yes, of the 10 different.
So it's not meant to single out anybody. It's just say get rid of that thing because it doesn't. That retail overlay does not do any purpose as far as I'm concerned. So with that, back to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley?
And as being the co-author, my intentions were a little bit different, the result's the same. I'm going to go back to before I was ever on council and when the general plan was being developed, because this was, a 4-year process of us updating this 20-year general plan. And I remember coming into the workshops, this was my neighborhood we're talking about now. This is across the street from me, which we have no retail. If I want to go shopping, I'm at 7-Eleven or the Food Mart at Chevron. I mean, that's really all we have in our area. So it really wasn't even about the sales tax, more the convenience for our area, because if you want to go shopping, you're going down to Valley View or you're going to La Salle Boulevard. And when I saw the general plan and what was originally designed, there were 3 areas that we were going to rezone as retail. It was Super Media next door to us, it was City Hall, and it was the Arrowhead lot. Those were 3 things that we were going to rezone as this update. And that was going through. And then I sat here before council and sat in on the planning commission meetings. And the only reason that there was an overlay brought into this is because the property owner came and asked for them not to rezone it to retail. The reasoning was they didn't want to be legal non-conforming. And so in order to be business friendly, we changed just that one area of the 3 areas that we wanted to rezone as retail. If the property owner would have never come here, it would have been zoned as retail, and it would have been a done deal, and we wouldn't even be here tonight because they would have been legal non-conforming. until the property is sold or whatever. So I want to go back to what our original intention was. We spent a lot of money, a lot of time reaching out to the community and asking, what do you want? What do the businesses want? What do the residents want? And they made it really clear that they want more retail of some of the areas that that made sense on Catella, such as next door here and Arrowhead. So if those properties ever did change hands, they would go into what the city, what our community wanted as the future. So I'm simply asking to kick this back to the Planning Commission to bring it back to the original intention of making that retail, which is what all the town hall meetings and everything were about.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Any of you. So this says specific parcel numbers. You know, it also does say planned industrial with retail overlay, but so two questions. Why are we getting them so specific to parcel numbers? I don't have any issue sending the Planning Commission something, which we already sent them, but you're kind of sending them kind of a second note. Would you agree that this is repetitive? It's just a little bit more detailed down specifically to the parcel, or what added value do you get other than?
Well, I think it's, and I'm not even looking at the parcel, I think the parcel in the general plan, and Stephen can correct me, but I think you have to get down to the specific parcels when you zone something. And so these are the 4 parcels that's included for that rezoning, correct?
It's for that property, yeah. That 128-acre site has those 4 numbers on it.
And in the original general plan, you know, we had the big maps up here, and those 4 parcels were identified as that being rezoned as retail. So I think in my eyes, it's truly just getting back to what those big posters said when we were introducing this.
So we have Stephen, I guess the question, then we have a general plan with one address item. Yeah, so from a liability perspective, this one address who has this one zone, when we send this item back to Planning Commission 2 weeks ago, did we put any words in there that we were extremely focused on the retail overlay?
None of this has hit the Planning Commission yet. They will look at uses beginning Wednesday. And for them to look at the uses, every industrial property was sent a notice because the industrial properties were affected. For this, if this is approved tonight, this initiation will be delivered to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will have a public hearing that will be noticed legally, and these 4 parcel numbers will be on the notice. It's legally required. It's an alternative way of identifying a property except for just address.
Well, let me ask you, if that happens and this is approved tonight, do you close out the item we just sent to the Planning Commission? Does it consolidate into one now? What administratively is your process?
This won't go to the Planning Commission for some time. A general plan amendment has to go through a process for tribal consultation first. There's a lot of steps before it gets to the Planning Commission. It's predicted that the Planning Commission and maybe even the City Council will be done with the analysis of uses before this hits City Council.
Okay, so the shorter answer is you're going to keep them separate, and eventually they potentially collide.
There's a point of collision because the commission will be asking, what zone is that last column for that one parcel? And it won't have been decided yet.
What happens administratively for somebody that submits an application on this address, and it's not a theoretical, it's true, it's happened, so they've submitted an application, are they in limbo? What happens? And again, please don't tell me that they will continue to process their application, because I get it, but I'm talking about, do you get past the soundbite of we're processing their application? What specifically, how far can their application go knowing that this is coming?
Carrie, I think that's a legal question of can it go all the way to the commission and not stop until it gets there?
Yes. I mean, the commission has to judge the application based upon the currently existing zoning ordinance and general plan. If it gets changed if those things get changed prior to the council getting it or the commission deciding, then it would be treated different. I mean, the fact that they've got the application in prior to approval of a zone change doesn't give them the right to get final approval of their application. By the time it gets to council, there may be a new zone for this, and the council will, as far as I know, I mean, Stephen, do you know differently?
No, I don't.
As far as I know, it's determined based upon whatever the law is at the time that it's finally here.
So let's talk math for a moment. So this theoretic item here, how long would it take for something like this? A general plan amendment's a big deal. Tribal meetings, I love that. Hey, how much time are we talking from start to finish on
The
something
general
like this?
plan, probably 6 months. The zoning will take 3 more rounds at the city council. First reading, second reading, 30 days.
Okay, so help me though, just because I'm slow on math too. It's like, how long does that mean in linear terms? What is
About
it?
9 months.
Okay, and how long, if they've submitted an application on this piece of property, again, going through this process, how long does that take?
Longer than 9 months. Yeah,
So when is
especially for the environmental work related to that. The environmental work related to a development project is much more specific than the environmental work for a rezoning. The environmental work, CEQA, is already done for the rezoning and general plan because we analyzed commercial in the old EIR. So you'll just make a cross-reference to that EIR. You can't do that with a project, though. The project that includes construction of a 200,000 square foot building would take a significant environmental document. Not the same for this. So that period is squeezed or condensed.
So we're kicking off a 9-month process right now, tonight, potentially, for one address. And the people that are starting the process are in a process that's going to take over 9 months. What happens if you guys, I guess this 9 months ends, we decide that this is not a good use? They've spent 9 months in the process fighting for the use. Do we just tell them, sorry, at this point, we approve this new general plan amendment. We basically, you guys didn't get it in time. How does this end?
I can't predict how it'll end. I mean, they'll be watching every one of these meetings. They're going to be looking at every action taken, but I can't predict how this will end.
How much does an EIR cost? Because I know we charge them, but they actually pay for the cost.
151, probably about 150,000.
Okay. Alrighty. I think that's all I have there, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess one more point, though. So I'm not trying to predispose which way the Planning Commission goes. If it's approved as PM and the retail overlay disappears, there's no impact to the applicant, true? If
Correct.
the Planning Commission says, like I said, get rid of the retail overlay, it doesn't do what we want it to do, let's get rid of it, and it stays PM, it has no effect on the applicant.
Except waiting through the process to determine what the final zoning is, yeah, but you're right.
Well, okay, so, but again, so I'm not gonna predispose what the Planning Commission does, I just wanted them to take a look at this.
But-
I wanna get rid of the retail overlay.
That being said, today, I don't know what the uses will be allowed based on what the Planning Commission and the City Council does.
That's the other track, look at all the PM and the LI, right? The LI as well.
Well, actually, the City Council's resolution was to look at all uses in all zones,
Understand.
starting with industrial.
Right, but you have the two industrials, the PM and the L.
Correct.
Yeah, the LI, the new one that we haven't seen yet.
The recreation overlay.
Got it, okay.
Now,
Thank you.
Warren, is the problem though is the uses? It's not the general plan designation of the retail, because we're not talking about a retail project here. We're talking about a project that actually meets the plan or P&M rating, but we don't like the use of it, right? I mean,
No, to me, it's retail. It doesn't, and I'm gonna say you has expressed some surprise that the retail overlay doesn't do what we thought it was going to do. Let's get rid of it. It doesn't serve a purpose. That's my, what I want to see. And that way we don't have this kind of discussion coming up. We'll know what the use should be, and it's clear in the code. So that's really what it is.
Okay.
Anything else, Shelley?
So I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2016-07.
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. We've gone to item 9, discussion item.
Can we get Dean back?
I'm sorry?
Can we get Dean?
We're rolling, though.
Yeah, all things got to come to an end.
Can Can we conflict them out? Jam, let's go get Dean.
Can I have the rest of that?
Yeah.
Thanks.
You wonder why I needed two
There's
Diet
no
Cokes.
tacos, I don't know.
Yeah, now you want my granola bar, huh?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden.
Okay, we're on to item 9, cable operations update and role of the Cable Television Commission. Brett?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This is a 6-month update since the time that the council entered into an agreement with our LoSal, with Larry Strother as the cable operations manager. And we can have Jason Alimam do a brief staff report, and Larry Strother is here to do a report as well.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. In August, the council awarded a contract to our LoSal for cable operations manager services. Larry Strother is the key person for purposes of the cable operations manager contract and took over operations for Los Alamitos Television on October 1st of 2015. He's prepared a 6-month update and an agenda that's attached to this staff report. And he's here tonight and will present to you a status update on what's occurred over the last 6 months, and will also provide a recommended role for the Cable Commission.
I printed everything so small I can't read it, but anyway. I know most of you have probably seen this. Don't want to bore you by going through it verbatim. But divided the report into basically 4 areas. 1 is channel operations, 2 is production, 3 is post-production, and 4 is marketing and community outreach. 1, channel operations. That's basically the equipment that we're talking about right now. And we've gone and been very cautious on the equipment we purchased. We made some specific recommendations up front, and we have purchased those. Those are the some new items there in the control room. Those are working. We can now, if you want to watch the council meeting on a phone, you can. If you want to do live streaming on your computer, you can. We have taken over the losaltv.com. It took us a while to find out that we still owned it, but we finally tracked it down and got the passwords for that. So we'll put everything under that eventually because it's a much easier website address to handle. But so you can, like I said, you can watch it. In terms of the equipment, we can now do video on demand. We can watch the council meetings, on demand, or you can watch them while they're live streaming. So that's one thing we took care of. We've also, like I said, purchased a lot of other equipment. We bought 3 new cameras. We have, and we've used them a lot. We've done a lot of production with this stuff. We bought a new control board. We bought equipment that goes over in the studio room. Tried to talk to the producers who've done stuff in the past with John. I've consulted with him on a lot of equipment. We put in a new green screen over there, which is now, I took the mayor over there earlier, so it looks nice and green, doesn't it? And not the curtain that you guys did for the state of the city. And what else? We're gonna put a whole new curtain around there. So for the studio, before it was just black. If you wanted to go in there, you had to shoot something with a black background. Now we'll have the function where you can do something with green, you can do something with a black curtain, you can do something with a white curtain, you can do it with multiple different color curtains. And that was one of our main goals in doing stuff, was to make it functional to a lot of different community producers. And want to do production in an economical way, so we didn't go after the latest, the most expensive cameras. We tried to go very economical. And even then you get bit, because I thought we did a great job of getting 3 JVC cameras at $2,500 each, or 2 of them at $2,500, and now they're on sale for $2,195. So you can't keep up with the drop of prices in electronics. But I also wanted to make a little more like a pizzazz to attract the young people, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to get that green screen in there. And that's worked. I now have, as you've probably seen from when we did Race in the Base, we've got 12 students from LoSal High School who are working, doing a lot of stuff. They've taped the Race in the Base. They've done a couple of basketball games. They've done a soccer game. They've taped LoSal High Improv, LoSal Elementary Talent Show. They wanted to go down and try, and they did Seal Beach. And a lot of this they've done as volunteers just because they wanted to get experience on the equipment. So from that standpoint, we've done really, really well, I think. Because that's probably my biggest concern coming in. I'd worked, as you know, some of you know, I worked with Kirk Stevens a lot in the past, and he was the guy who did the engineering for me. I trusted him a lot. Kirk has a full-time job now, so I couldn't use him. I didn't know quite where that expertise was coming from. And also some of the guys I worked with are in poor health or have got real jobs. And so getting these young people in there has been great because they are really eager to work. At the same time, we have 6 adults who have volunteered and liked what we're trying to do, and they've called me. And Ken Yee, who was the football cameraman for many, many years, wants to help out. Sergeant Lilly over at the base wants to help out when he's available. Obviously, Steve Clayton's been doing productions. John's been doing productions. I've tried to keep everybody incorporated so hopefully nobody's feeling left out. Anyway, moving forward well in that. I said the main thing was I just wanted to do, all the equipment we bought has been efficiency, economy, and appeal to potential producers and volunteers. And I think we've done well that way. Into production, I went and looked back at last year's accounting, and I could be wrong here because it's hard to tell from just some of the old news enterprises, but there was like 6 productions that we did in the same time period. I'm talking about the first 10 weeks of the year. This year we've done, I had 17 on my list here, and then last week we did 2 basketball games in CIF that happened after the account, and also we did the police appreciation luncheon. So instead of 17, we've actually done 20, which is almost 3 times the amount that we did last year in the same budget. So we've been pretty efficient that way. I know there was some questions earlier in public comment, and I had a chance to talk to Mr. Hammond outside afterwards, asking what he wanted to know, because I didn't want to answer any questions. He wanted specificity. And I think we've been pretty specific on what we've billed for and what we asked for earlier. So maybe it's not in this report, but I know he's probably watching this. I just want to advise him, go back and look, because we were pretty specific on what we were asking before. And I think all the information is there. And if he still doesn't think I've answered him, give me a call. I'll be happy to talk with him anytime. I said production, we just briefly went through that. Marketing, I haven't done much marketing at this point and gone out because I want to make sure I'm totally confident that when I say to the community, we're ready to do something, we're ready to do something. I mean, because I have a lot of young kids who are working with new equipment. I'm working with the new equipment, and there's a lot of questions I'm still trying to answer. I don't know. I know that you voiced some concerns, and other people have voiced concerns, and there's questions I also asked. We shoot some really nice stuff, but it's not looking the same on the air. And I just went and did a check on this. This looks great, this picture up here. I just went into our room, and it's not coming out the same when it gets out through the cable companies. I know in the past they've had a history of compressing the pipeline, the bandwidth, for all access things. It's just something they've done. I went back and looked through the records, and one of the companies has been responsive, the other hasn't. So I'll just have to follow up on that. But that is a big image. The kids were asking about it. Said, we shot a great basketball game, and it looked really sharp, and then they're looking at it on the screen, and it looked kind of fuzzy. So part of that could be us, part of that could be them. I just have to check into it and do a little follow-up on quality control there. The other thing I wanted to hit on, I know we've been asked a number of times about the commission, the role of the commission. I have said before that in seeing the commissions twice throughout the history of Los Al TV, they failed to be functional twice. I think one of the reasons is that it's kind of very interesting. You're asked to know a lot of technical stuff. Most of the issues you deal with are technology. And a lot of people did not have the background to offer good opinions on the technology of the equipment you're being asked to buy. And that was 90% of the meetings that I was involved with. So I'm not sure that a commission plays a good role in advising the station or the council in terms of technology. I do think they play a good role in terms of advising the community or advising the council maybe on what kinds of programming they may want in this community. I've said before that if there's money left over for grants, have the commission make the decision on that. So it's not somebody like me and people say I'm granting favors to my favorite people or whatever. That's one role I see. But I also see a much more expanded role for a commission. I think rather than just dealing with Los Alamitos, it should involve Rossmore, because Rossmore is where half of your programming is going for. Rossmore is where half of your money is going to come from if you get sponsorships and stuff like that. Right now, under the commission format, you have to be a resident of the city of Los Alamitos. I think it's imperative that we end up getting more money from Rossmore, because the money, Rossmore is paying money, but they're paying it to the County of Orange, and it never comes back here. And I think we need to put pressure or guidance from our county supervisors and say, hey, can some of that money come back this way? And I think maybe if we offer them something, we offer them a platform by where they can broadcast things and air their things. They might be more amenable to it, and you would know that far better than I would. But I think we have to get Rossmore involved, and also we have to get more money out of Rossmore, because it's just not fair that Los Al is bearing the brunt of most of the budget. But in retrospect, or equally I should say, I know from past experience most of the donation money does come from Rossmore for whatever reasons, through booster club presidents or whatever. They just happen to be more likely to be from that area. So it's not quite as bad as I may let on, but I think we still have to get more money from that area. But I do think a really valuable commission would be to have a community advisory board. And not just people from Los Alamitos, but people from Rossmore, people from the district, people from the sports world, people from the nonprofit world. It'll do two things. They can let us know what's going on in their communities, and we can also let them know, hey, we're out here and we want to do stuff. And if you have programming, let us know about it. And I think that would be a lot more of a lot more value in in terms of how it would help us. That's my own personal opinion. I think another thing would be a technical advisory committee to be more informal group that I would ask. I would invite people from the district, Bob Osman, who's the school district's top cameraman, and Dan Tomlinson, who teaches the video over there now for Griffin News. But there's people in the community, Don Brune, who's retired but does a lot of work around here, and is a great guy with acoustics. There's just a lot of people in the area who have technical expertise that we could tap into. I think on the other committee, I'd say you get people from Los Alamitos. That would be people you would recommend. It would also be people on the staff. You want to make it a big inclusive group on the advisory committee, so you get as much input as possible and make people feel vested in the deal. Anyway, that's the report. It's going slow, much slower than I thought, but I think we've been very prudent with the money we spent, and we're going to get a lot more than we originally thought we'd get. Part of that just has to do, as I mentioned before, the cost of some of this stuff is just going down. But I've also learned we don't need certain things that I thought we needed at first. We can make do with some of the equipment we've bought in kind of creative ways that guys have come up with, and so like that. But anyway, you have any questions for me?
Well, if you would, I'd like to go to public comment, and then we'll come back and have our comments and your questions for you. Do we have any public comment? Welcome back, Larry.
It's nice to see you again.
Shelley, you want to start?
Yeah, just a couple comments. I've noticed the improvement the past few months in the variety of programming. I'm no longer watching the city council meetings 10 times a week. A couple times is okay, but the 10th time gets kind of old. I like that you're involving the high schoolers. Over at Race on the Base, I was interviewed by one of the high school kids. They seem excited about it, and they're learning new things with the new equipment. The van looks beautiful, and since the majority of our productions have always been out in the field, going out to events, going out to fundraisers and programming, it's good that we're now completely mobile with up-to-date equipment. So I thought you've done a good job. Probably are moving slower than you thought. Welcome to government time. It gets a little bit slower after this, but that's okay. But no, I think he's come through with everything he said he was going to, given the restrictions that are put on him with getting things approved and everything. And I think LATV is looking better and still has room for improvement, but I think you're on a good path.
Well, I should say the staff has been great. They've been very, very helpful, and sometimes the rules perplex me, but they've been helpful in their guidance and patience. So thank you, Jason, and thank you, Brett.
Dean, anything?
Yeah, I appreciate the report, and there are some parts of this that concern me. The first time that I saw anything being done with the new equipment was down at Taste of Los Al, and that's not on the air, so I don't know how that handles, and trying to separate out the Taste of Los Al is also your program. If you were doing something like that, let's say Hedwig's Carnival that they do, and you went over and did that, would that be something that St. Hedwig's would be funding or an outside sponsor? And then what's their guarantee in terms of getting on the show? So I'm a little surprised that some of the stuff that's been filmed isn't on. Race on the Base isn't on. And I mentioned to the staff, but your explanation about it looks great going into the pipeline, but when you turn on the TV, it doesn't look so great. I thought the show that was done for the swearing in for the chief was lacked a lot of quality, very washed out. That's been a problem. We've had a problem in here where people are not talking into their microphone out there. We've had several issues where people turning around and talking to the audience and nothing's being picked up. But I've noticed even in watching some of the playbacks that even us talking into the microphones here is not being picked up. And so I don't know how that's monitored from the standpoint of the control over here, whether he's hearing what's going out and has the ability to adjust it. More technical things, I think, than anything else. I don't know who to call when stuff like that comes up. And you know, I would appreciate the ability to have some direction on who do we call city staff, do we call you?
Call me.
Then it would be helpful to have the numbers you want used and things like that, that when that came up. As I said earlier tonight, I got a text from somebody that is a Time Warner customer, said no TV on, no LATV3 is on, and then afterwards I got a text back that it was back up and operating. Those are the kinds of things that you just kind of expect flow, and my concern is who's monitoring that, and I don't expect you to be doing it 24/7. Councilmember Hasselbrink said she's glad she's not seeing council meetings on 17 times a day, and I tend to agree, but there are different people that have different schedules, so the flexible scheduling like that does help people to be able to see it. There are some programs that are still running that I kind of question why we're running them. The Art Levine show out of Long Beach, I don't know exactly why that continues to run. Is it that we don't have enough programs ourselves? I know I'm still seeing some of the Althea, Traveling with Althea, which is a popular program, but how do we measure that from the standpoint of viewership in the process? Those are some of the things that I don't know whether the commission is necessarily the answer, but I do think you need an advisory group to work with. And I understand.
The one, before I forget.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The programming, I haven't touched much. Until we had the programming, I haven't dealt much with the programming. Because when I say, all right, we have a new station up, I want it to be a new station. So Art Levine, that's a traditional bicycle programming. I mean, we've been running it for years, and so I did not tell Doug to not run the thing, you know.
But we don't need to be running it necessarily at 6 o'clock at night. When people are eating dinner and looking at it, it can also run at other times rather than at that particular point. There's some church program that runs in there. I would rather see our programming for Los Al have a greater impact. There was one thing you mentioned.
You will in the future.
Okay. There's one thing that you mentioned in here about, in reading through, and I can't find where it is. Number 17, I think it is, Seal Beach TV history shows. There's a certain focus on stuff outside of Los Al, and right now my thinking is that the Los Al stuff should be primary, and Seal Beach has their own channel, and they have their own production down there. I understand the live streaming aspect of it, but I'd like to see us focus and bring up just the Los Al stuff and get that to the point before we start reaching out. You mentioned Rossmore. People on the advisory thing, we're not getting any funding from Rossmore, the district itself over there, and yet we're still running their programs, and I'm not sure what the relationship is. At one time, Doug was overdoing those under a separate contract. Those are kind of like a bicycled program, I presume. And I agree with you. We need to be putting pressure on the supervisor and get some of that money, the PEG money that is being generated out of there that's going to who knows where. That needs to be coming back to us in the process, and I think we can do more things. I know there was a theater arts group that was filmed over in the Rush Park, I think is where it was.
Yeah, the Shakespeare and the...
And that's run multiple times, and there's times where I've turned it on and it's on and I kind of say again. But it just maybe that's when I had time to turn the TV on. On the advisory group, you're talking about a big group, and I just say be careful what you wish for, because you know, that's ambitious to think that the nonprofits and everybody's going to get involved and spend time even just twice a year. Whatever we can do to help, I think the nexus from the standpoint of the commission is the way to go, and the commission requirements, which we don't establish, they're established by code, need to be LaSalle people. We've had people on that commission as well as other commissions who are on the commissions because they volunteered, and they really don't have expertise. They may have a relationship of some sort, but they really don't have an expertise in the subject matter that they're on the commission for. And you take the volunteers that come in, and there's times we can't even get volunteers to come in and serve at the commissions. And so we kind of get what's available in the process. The work with the school district, I think, is great. You know, it's steps, baby steps a little bit in part of it, and it's working that direction. So, you know, I think one of the things that Mr. Hammond was concerned about is that the report, which we've got for a receive and file, doesn't really address financing. And the Fund 28, which started off at one level, cameras have been bought. You make a reference on here that you wished you hadn't bought the one camera, but it can be reconciled as you go along. You know, that's what's going to happen with technology.
Yeah.
And so, budget-wise, where are we? And these are things I think staff probably could have included on this report that would have helped to be able to, since this stuff is posted on the website, that staff could have helped for people that are concerned in that particular area, and I know Mr. Hammond is. There was, I think, $144,000 that was prudently set aside, a lot of it from the prior LATV group that was operating out of the facilities over there behind Sizzler. How much of that's left and where do we go, because the revenue is not coming in to replace stuff. So I think an accounting type of thing on a next report would be helpful, or maybe that's something that city staff can provide us on an interim basis, either in the weekly reports that we get or whatever. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good effort.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I guess one comment, I think, on the concept of an advisory committee, as Councilmember Grose said, I think I would not be supportive of that unless we had some very clear rules on how it would form, some bylaws, if you will, and I think that might not be the best use of our time, but I understand the intent. I'm not against that, but I think when you form a body of individuals, they have to have rules in order to operate, and then I don't know if we would have any say-so in how it forms, so I'm not sure if that'd be the vehicle for which you to get for how you would get input. But now I think, as Councilmember Grose said, we do have our code and our charter that says the TV Commission and how it's comprised and how we appoint, and it is clear. So I think that's would maybe appropriate. But let me ask you this: 6 months without one, is it been a hindrance not having a sounding board like that, a TV Commission?
No.
Okay, so maybe it's still another period of time and we can revisit it. But I would suggest this to your organization, right? Maybe come up with a concept of an advisory board, how it's comprised, what the bylaws would look like, and see if there's some willingness of this body to, adopt, participate, or I would think that you can appoint members of the community based on your 501c3 and your bylaws.
I was thinking more of an informal thing where I invite a number of people to come and speak.
Understand.
And so, because, I mean, I've had a pretty good relationship with, I know when we met over regarding the track and the stuff, it was a big group, and we all had our different ways of expressing ourselves. But it's as much a marketing outreach thing as it is, you want to make people aware of what you have and the equipment and how you guys can use it. Because I totally agree with Mr. Grose there that the nonprofits, they have their own agenda. They have to see what's in it. You only have so many hours in a day, so they have to see it can be effective for them. And I have to do a sales job to them.
But I would submit to you, you can do that without having any kind of formal body that we would appoint.
Right.
So it becomes kind of answer the question for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that'd be my only concern. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, a couple comments is that I think historically, it's hard to say LATV is unbelievable right now, because I think some people in our community would take that as all the time that they'd put in, it wasn't good before. I would just say that that you, Larry, and your organization is continuing the tradition of helping us move LATV forward, and I think I definitely see a lot of activity that you guys are focused on. When I look at kind of a TV production, the promotion of what was going to be on there and the programming, kind of interesting observation is that your perspective is, your words, at least right now, you don't care as much about programming, so that could be done by whoever, because I'm trying to get ready to build this thing that when we unleash it, it's pretty important. Do you feel that the programming, maintaining control of the programming helps you kind of accentuate into your vision of what this will be? Because it kind of, a lot of the discussions we have seem to be more about production capability. What is the studio like? What's the equipment like? How can we produce something? And for me, when I think about the programming, maybe not as severe maybe as Dean down there as, hey, I don't like Long Beach stuff on. But then I think, well, what do I like as far as input and being constructive to try to be helpful? We've got a pretty significant project going on at Cypress right now. If anybody's tried to see the Cypress City Council, it's a little bit harder to find, especially depending on what, where it is. And so, the issue of Rossmore, they don't pay us to be on, but they drop the tape off here and we play it. We learned through the ACLU lawsuit that we don't really have a lot of discretion on bicycled material being in. It's kind of first come, first serve. And then programming becomes important on what time it gets. If you're not really paying attention to it right now, I guess city manager, who is paying attention to that?
That part is still being handled as it was before. The contractual relationship has somewhat changed because our primary contractual relationship is with our LoSal, and then Doug Wood is still contracting with and primarily doing the programming
for our LoSal.
For our LoSal.
When I said I'm not saying I'm not concerned.
Sure.
I have ultimate responsibility on it.
Okay.
It hasn't been my primary area of focus. I mean, I have already laid out, I think kind of addresses what Mr. Grose is saying. Certain areas of, okay, instead of a hodgepodge where one night I'm seeing John's Civil War for the 57th time, and then I'm seeing it 2 nights later, it's like, okay, Tuesday night's going to be like the arts night. Thursday night's going to be like, sports night. Friday night might be the community night. As I mentioned in the report, I've been talking to about 5 or 6 different people. I want to do, specifically myself, I'll oversee it. I want to get the students to produce it, but like an hour on for local business. Work with the chamber, work with, local business people. I've been talking to people at shops at Rossmore about maybe hosting it there, them putting some money into sponsoring it. Working with the Med Center. I've talked to Susan Morales over there and some doctors in the area. Let's do a monthly show on, not just the hospital, maybe they have their employee of the month, but how issues affect doctors. How does Obamacare and all these, I know a lot of doctors in the area and they all have their own story. Like, yeah, it's helped out in some ways, but all the paperwork I'm doing is really, really difficult and I'm not, let's hear those people talk about those issues. I've talked with Kerry Logue over at LAIF. Let's do 1 hour around the horn in the LoSal district,
They could be the people putting the show together, kind of co-producing it with us, handling a lot of the legwork. And we'll bring the cameras there, and we'll shoot 1 week or 1 month. We'll shoot at Rossmore. Another week we'll shoot at the high school. Another month we shoot at Hopkinson or Oak, whatever. And so those are community shows that I want to get more into. I've talked with people over at Rossmore. Let's do a Rossmore show. Let's try and get the RHA to kick in some money to sponsor it. You know, a lot of it is. So I've been doing stuff in the background, but again, I don't want to go out there and say, hey, we're ready to do a show, and I'm not totally confident that we can pull that show off.
When you make the comment that we should go after Rossmore to get money, they used to give $12,000 to $14,000 a year to the TV production.
That was from Time Warner, who paid it in lieu of their contract. We've never gotten the money actually from Orange County.
Yeah, and but you know, still, what happens today, like Dean said, somebody films it and we put it on. So you know, that's what is the incentive for people to, you know, what would be the incentive for the county or for Rossmore to say, hey, look, we want to, you know, get the money to you because we're going to put it on anyway for free directly. I mean, somebody's paying on their side for the production.
Technically, we don't have to put it on the air anymore because we're a government access channel. Government access can do whatever they want. You're talking public access with that code. And so it's a different animal. But, you know, rather than give them a little, you know, honey, we can do a good job for Rossmore. Let's give them a show that they can be proud of, that helps them.
But I think if we, and I'm not suggesting this, but if we totally took the RCSD off the air, we would probably get their attention that they might want to pay some money if they want to get on. I don't know if that's a policy issue or it's just something that's fun to talk about. But the reality is, you know, if that is the rule that any local government agency can bring something down and put it on and you don't have to contribute, like I said, as a person that's really involved in the government part of this, you know, I'm interested in Cypress City Council to hear what's going on and, you know, what are they talking about over there instead of having to find that. I'm interested in the Board of Supervisors. How do we hold Michelle Steele accountable for District 2 or what we hear there? You know, go try and find that somewhere. If we're going to put different agencies on our cable channel, I guess, I mean, should we try to provide a regional package to our folks of what's going on that actually affect us? I mean, I would think the Board of Supervisors being run as a bicycled show would be much more important or at least interesting than the Art Levine show in Long Beach or something over there. So and again, I'm just giving input because I'm not, you know.
I actually talked to the Board of Supervisors a couple of years ago about it. They're on Channel 6, I know, on Time Warner. They were. I believe, are they still on Channel 6 on Time Warner?
I don't know.
Yeah, no one knows.
And they stream live.
Yeah, well, they stream live, and I guess what I'm saying is that you know, it's almost like a lot of the websites they collect and they're kind of collectors of good content. And you know, if government is what we care about, then give everybody in our community the view of the government, not just LaSalle. You know, when we're talking about some of these different things within Seal and Cypress, I mean, even the Seal Beach City Council, you know, that gym that's going in, the LA Fitness, there's a lot of interest right now in looking at that over there off Sprouts. You know, some of us weren't available to come to that. Would have been interesting to see it. And if you're in the community, we could use that to raise awareness. So programming, I guess, was the point. It's kind of, it is important. I don't know if that board or this group serves, even if it's in the interim, to try to maximize the programming. But I think that's the part that we could even do today, is make it a lot better than what it is, or at least be more mindful of what we are trying to use the channel for. I'd get a lot more out of a Board of Supervisors meeting being televised, where I wouldn't have to go find it and then to try and search it down or watch Art Levine in Long Beach. So I would just say that's just input.
I think you'll be happy with what we're trying to do with the website, because collecting, like being an aggregate for a lot of stuff like that, where people can find different things that they're interested in. So.
The other thing too, and I think it was Mayor Pro Tem Hesselbrink talked about the youth producers. What's interesting to me is I love seeing the youth folks out there, but they were usually kind of the support people. You guys unleashed them by themselves with a camera and a microphone, and they took whatever I remember I walked up to one of them at an event. And I said, "Hey, guy, there's the mayor of Cypress is over there, and they're supporting our event. Why don't you come over?" And they looked at me like they're not even sure we're on the city council. They have no idea.
Yeah, I'm had to educate a few about that.
But what's cool, I thought that was refreshing. Is what a good perspective, the youth view of what's going on in the community. I thought that was very healthy, and so I just wanted to be a little bit balanced too. As I thought that was helpful.
They want to do a daily. I said this is a little ambitious, but they want to do like a daily show just covering what's going on in the community. Because a lot of them are coming off the Griffin News, where they did it every other week at Los Al, and so one of the kids, Connor Brown especially, is like all over this, and this is what he wants to do for a living, and so and a lot of them are just they're there. They have ambitions, and I personally don't want to hold them back, because I'm old, and they can do a lot of things, a lot more than I can. So anyway, I think it'll be interesting in the next couple of months.
And then the washout of the police chief swearing in, that was done with these cameras, right?
No, that was done over in the community room, and that community room is really yellow lighting, and so where you have a big problem with that is if you try and adjust the faces, you're washing out that room, that background becomes really light. And so what I want to do is once we get all, everything else set up, how much money I have, bring in a professional cameraman who can just test the lighting there and say, these are the settings for this room. Because right now you have, 3 or 4 different guys who are not real professional top-line cameramen, as much as we think we are. And, you had different people doing different shots there, and they didn't come out the same way. So,
okay, those are the comments I had. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Larry, I think you're moving in the right direction. I mean, I think you can do the community advisory group without us and be as inclusive as you want. Our recommendations are to receive and file the 6-month update, and we also need to provide direction on the role of the Cable Television Commission. Any thoughts or motions?
I'd actually like to suspend it for another 6 months, just to give Larry some more time. And then we can come back and revisit it. I don't see there's any sense of urgency to do anything more than that. He seems to be operating right now without a cable commission, but we're not sure what that's going to look like. So that would be my recommendation.
I'll second that.
Yeah, I just was going to say, I think the idea of an advisory group or the commission, and we've got people that were on that before, which have had involvement in the community. If you do a community group, I would reach out to those folks as well, just so that they have an opportunity to stay engaged. I really think rather than 2 meetings a year, if you set up a group like that, they can serve as a buffer for you, so you don't feel like you're having to make all the decisions. As an example, the News Enterprise prints a calendar, and there's a calendar that runs periodically on the TV in what I would call dead time. I turned on for one particular program that was listed, and instead of what the paper said, it's a soccer game. And so if we're doing a calendar, we ought to stick with the calendar. And if there's an issue on how things are scheduled, if you had an advisory group kind of blessing a schedule per week or for the whole month type of a thing, it takes that pressure off of you, and it puts it back on them from the standpoint that they had kind of established the time frames and the frequency of events and things of that nature. I think the original LATV bylaws that were established showed that and prioritized which programs went on which time frames. And so that's where an advisory group or somebody like that could probably help you, that there was a specific timing on what programs would run where. Right now, I'm not sure that that truly exists because, as I said, we're seeing some reruns of some shows that have run months ago that are running still. That either is saying to me we don't have enough content to upload fresh every week,
Well, you definitely don't have content to fresh upload them.
Yeah, you mentioned on your production thing under 14 that that there were 10 videos that were produced by Los Al Unified School District, a Modeling Monday, the choir, Griffin News, 4 of the related music videos, and the district-wide choir. I've seen the choir shows, but I've never seen the rest of them.
They're like 4-minute, 6-minute pieces that I've used when like a show ends, they're interstitial.
I got it. Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Could you tell me what the repeat the motion, please?
To suspend the cable commission for another 6 months, and then have Larry come back and report out, and then make a decision on whether we reenact the commission, do an advisory board, but right now basically continue as we have been for the past few months.
And receive and file the report.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
Okay.
Warren seconded. So all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to say no.
Okay, 4-1. We will go on to the initiated business. Dean, you want to start?
Okay.
Thank you, Larry.
The meetings that I've been attending are available on my website, which is losal.net. Rich and the mayor and I had an opportunity to attend a workshop on sober living options. It was kind of a joke that it was the day after St. Patrick's Day, and so who put that together? Originally, it was originally a task force thing that was being looked at being done by ACCOC. That's the Association of Orange County Cities, something or other. California Cities of Orange County. They've gone through some management changes, and the League of California Cities Orange County Division kind of stepped in, and when the event actually occurred, it was the League was running the whole thing, so ACCOC really wasn't involved. One of the things that they did discuss, and it was from my standpoint, it was very beneficial. There is new legislation being proposed in a bipartisan way, meaning that the Orange County delegation, primarily being Republican and in a minority, has a Democrat that's carrying the legislation, and they're co-sponsoring in hopes that they can get it through to try and give local control on parts of that back. I can pass on the exact number. I did forward through today the PowerPoint that was sent in, and it does show that. It was interesting because the city manager from Newport Beach was there, and they're the poster child and the expensive poster child on this process because they did put in an ordinance, and they were challenged on the ordinance. He said the figure of 10 million was what was bantered about, that the ordinance still is in place, and that the appellate court did not strike down the ordinance but certain portions of it. So there may be some value in that process, and one of the things that I took away was that particularly detox, which was the one that we had proposed in our neighborhood that we found out about. We didn't need to know about it, but we found out about it, fortunately. There is the ability on medical detox to control some of that. And so, I think I sent you the PowerPoint as well. But you might look through part of that, and I'm sure that the city manager from Newport Beach would be happy to help and consult with us if there's some things that we can do that may help us be able to regulate that. In talking with neighboring cities, they all have them, and they know they have them, but it's up to the neighbors, and in some cases they have them and they don't even know they're there because there's no problems with them. The key again is local control. Assemblyman Bro, Assembly Member, was it Young Kim that was there?
No.
Who was the other? Assemblyman, the senator was there.
Pat Bates and
Pat Bates was there from the Senate. We had 2 assembly members. and then Congressman Rohrabacher was there. At any rate, I think there's some options there that we can certainly look at without getting ourselves into a legal bind, and maybe following along on what Newport has done that they've not been challenged on at this particular point. Lastly, this afternoon, I was able to join the mayor in the swearing in of our newest police officer, which is kind of an interesting story, and I know you've already posted it online. He worked for 3 years for the city as or I shouldn't say worked, he was involved with the city for 3 years as a police explorer, program that went away, but you're looking at potentially bringing back. And this is kind of a good story from that standpoint. He served as a police explorer with us for 3 years, left and joined the Marine Corps, and has done 2 tours overseas with the Marines. Has done both had a drug sniffing, not a drug sniffing, bomb sniffing dog, and was qualified as a marksman and a sniper for the military. So we got a SWAT guy and potentially a dog handler, even though we don't have the dog and he couldn't bring it back with him. But nice to have a young man like that come back, and he's really very young appearing, and so we can use him in, you know, undercover stuff if you want, or tell the school district that we've got a new student over there or something. But nice young man. He was here with his wife, and that was great. I think that brings us up to full strength now, does it not? Or within one more. He graduated last Friday at the academy over at the Golden West College, and we weren't able to get over to that one, but it was nice to be here today and nice to meet him. So thank you. With that, I'll pass it on.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I attended the OC Vector and Mosquito Board of Trustees meeting, and we do have the new district manager, Rick Howard. He was there. And one of the things that I think is on a lot of folks' mind is the Zika virus. So there is a series of town hall meetings, and Wendy, you're going to put it on the city website. But there is one coming up at Garden Grove at their community center on the 29th of March on Tuesday at 7 p.m. So I would encourage any member of the public to go and get more information on the Zika virus. The other thing, on the Los Alamitos Unified Working Group between the city and the 2 board members, we had a meeting this past Friday, and we, I think, finished up on the traffic circulation study that had been started. And then there are some possible campus changes that the high school is looking at. And I think we're just about done with that ad hoc on our end of it. The last thing is the Safe Routes to School, which is still kind of going through its inner workings through the the school's process. The one thing I think on Safe Routes to School that I will be looking out for at the so my colleagues at the upcoming Southern California Association of Governments General Assembly meeting. Safe Routes to School does appear there, and last year Brett and I spoke with them, and we will speak with them again to at least stay kind of current with what they're doing and looking for opportunities for the school to get engaged with that group. So we'll look at that coming up. One of the things, and I hope, Corey, you will talk about this, is the the California Parks and Rec Society. You'll talk about that, I hope, when your time comes. And then Mayor Garcia had hosted our city and other local agencies, and at the Rancho Los Alamitos home over there, I guess. It was really interesting, and I would encourage anybody to go and visit that. It's a I guess, preserved education center with the barn. There's animals there, farm there, and it was really interesting. And I would like to go back and actually take a tour of that. Any member of the public can do so. And I think that was basically all that I had. Oh, one last thing that I did end up going to do, and I would encourage members of the public to go do this. And I will ask Wendy if you can go look for a link and put this on the website. But over at the Tustin Library, they have a display that's only going until April 7th, and it has to do with it's pictures of resistance, and it is a story. It is a picture story with the soundtrack from the actual woman that took the pictures of her fighting the Nazis in Poland,
And to go there and to listen to this history and what she had to endure, how her family was killed, the picture she took, and every picture that she has on display there, there's a story that is behind it. And it is really, I think, very historical, very touching, very moving, and I would encourage public to go out there and see. It's only there to the 7th, but there is a website that you can also look at, but I will ask the city clerk to put that on our website to link to it. But I would encourage you to go look at the pictures of resistance at the Tustin Library. With that, back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, I'd like to start off. I wanted to give a really quick update for, we had a great showing at the Casa Youth Shelter Wicked event, and wanted to thank Chief Captain Moore and Minda Jensen, who came to grace us at our table. We were able to raise over $200,000 that night for the youth center, and that was a great event. I just want to thank everybody in the community that participated in that, and Robin Sinclair, who's our executive director, and everybody that worked so hard to kind of put that on. And I would encourage any of the council members that next year, if you're interested in going, and somebody doesn't schedule the Americana event at the same time, every single person up here would be invited. Again, we'd love to have the guests there and have your participation. I also, Mayor, I would ask respectfully if you'd consider recognizing Gary Zagar, clinical director for the Casa Youth Shelter, is retiring after 20 plus years, one of the original clinical directors that we've had. It's the legal part of what we do in engaging to be able to provide treatment at the Casa Youth Shelter for the kids, making sure that they come into a safe environment, that they adjudicates the process. When we start having really significant, serious problems with some of the kids, he's the person that gets involved to ensure everybody's safety. He's retiring after an unbelievable career, and you put him and Lucienne Mulhart, who is the executive director that was there for 20-something years before Robin. A lot of history is walking out the door there, and a new generation and a new board and a lot of new stuff going on at Casa Youth Shelter. If we could, there's a retirement for him coming up. It's in the middle of the week. But I would like to see if we could recognize him at a city council meeting for all of his contribution to the community for over 20 years. The race on the base, I know not a lot of people are talking about it, but Corey, if we could, just a little bit. And I'm not going to talk about who had the best time, Josh. I'm going to talk about what was which commission, council, or city staff ended up having the best participation. And then maybe we'll talk a little bit about the time.
You're ruining the highlight for next month.
Oh, okay. Should I wait?
Yes.
But let's wait, because I don't want to ruin
it. Suspense a little bit longer.
It was an unbelievable event. Let's just leave it at that. I don't know what type of feedback. Matter of fact, I read the feedback that you got and you posted on the surveys. We got a pretty significant amount of feedback. I was really, any highlights you want to bring to the community's attention? Because it was a great event, and it's so funny. It was a great event, and I was all on the high, and then I talked to you, and it's like, man, there's so many things we could have done better. I'm like, Jesus, what, let's enjoy it for just a little bit before you throw the wet blanket on it. So give me some of your perspective. I know you're going to give a whole big thing next week, but I think the feedback was really interesting in the poll. Maybe talk about the poll and what you did after.
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council for attending. Very much appreciate all of your support and all the members of the community that came out. We had just under 4,100 participants this year, down a little bit from last year, but right in line with kind of what's happening in the industry. If you weren't able to come out on Friday night, you truly missed a spectacular brand new event. Our Kids Glow in the Dark run was absolutely spectacular. We had just under 100 kids last year in our kids run. This year we had over 300 kids participate in the Glow run, so that was a real highlight. We thought we were going to get it nailed down in a quick 15-20 minute thing, and we had to run 3 ways. We probably should have done about 5 or 6 to split the kids up and make sure that they were all safe. We had a number of parents that ran alongside their kids, including myself. I ran alongside my 3-year-old. He kept yelling at me to catch up. That really was one of the biggest highlights of this year. We do send out a survey about Monday, right after their race, and that's where we as staff have to do a better job of celebrating our accomplishments before we are too harsh on ourselves. The results were up from past years. Very, very positive comments. About 4 or 5% higher this year than last year. Said they would be back next year. Our overall ratings are of good to excellent, are in the 90s. So we're very, very proud. We spent some extra money on nicer shirts and nicer medals and on the glow run, and it really paid off. The comments are quite spectacular. So we're really excited. We've already had our debrief meeting, and both with the military and internally, and we've got some real neat things on the horizon, including hopefully a family glow run, or an all-inclusive glow run on Friday night to include adults, kids, families, and the like. So we're really excited for next year, and we hope that everybody continues to come out and support the event. But likely registration will open, I think, in May.
Yeah, just one other thing. So Seal Beach and Cypress were all part of the race series. So if you're in all three, you get a medal too. Can you plug a little bit for the Seal Beach run coming up?
Yeah, please.
'Cause that's next month.
Thank you.
Usually they come.
They
didn't. I think it's April 9th or something.
Yes. So the next run in the OC California Race Series will be Run Seal Beach, taking place Saturday, April 9th. Again, if you run in 3 consecutive events, so if you started with Race on the Base, you can do Run Seal Beach and then conclude with the Cypress Run, which is July the 23rd. If you did last year's Cypress Run, continue with Race on the Base, then you receive your medal at Seal Beach. And just to let you know, our participant numbers are up. There were over 700 people eligible to receive their medal at the Race on the Base this year, which is awesome. And we have a brand new design for those of you that have done it already once. We have a brand new design medal. It's spectacular. It's all inclusive of all 3 entities, kind of logos, all mixed into one. So we're real excited about that.
I was going to ask about that because I was curious because the medals seem to be getting better. They're always good, but they're really good right now. And so you can get it a second time.
Correct. So we have right now we have 2 medals, and next year, as long as everything continues, we'll enter into a 3rd medal. So if the first time you've done it, you get the one that kind of looks like a dog tag, and then if you've done that and received that one already, now we have one that looks like the kind of like the sun from the Cypress Run, but it's got the pier in it, and I think it's got a jet in it, and so it's all incorporated. All of our medals are designed by our recreation manager, Emily Noda.
Wow, yeah, they're awesome. Hey, so I'm going to move off the race. I have 2 other items just really quick. At some point, City Manager, I would hope that we could get a little bit of an update on the Los Alamitos Boulevard project. It's been a while. It seems like we get some distractions that start coming through, like parking and some of these things that are out there, but things that are actually funded, like the Boulevard project. It doesn't have to be tonight, but if, maybe another council member at some point would like that, it would be neat to have an update. And lastly, I just wanted to say a few words for my council member colleague, Warren Kuzmoto. His handiwork was all over the Orange County Register recently, and just wanted to kind of acknowledge our colleague here for what he's doing. He was our board member from the Orange County Fire Authority for quite a long time, and then he came to us in open public and said, I think Shelley would be pretty good on that, and we're like, what? But no. But then I said, okay, that would be a good idea. So we switched. But I thought, God, that was really, because that's a coveted position to be able to be on the Orange County Fire Authority. And he just kind of resigned it. So I pulled him aside behind closed doors and said, why do you want to give it up? And he goes, Because you know what, there's some stuff going on with the fire authority that it seems like it'd be inappropriate for me as a board member to take on. And you'll hear more about it. And the issue specifically has to do with Irvine is the biggest city out there. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to actually let Warren talk about it, because Warren, I got to tell you, I read the article. Just inform the community in case they didn't read it, you know, kind of what the issue is with OCFA and kind of what you're doing to kind of help us.
I'll appreciate the your kind words, but I think what it is, and I really want to defer to Mayor Pro Tem Hasselbrink about the Irvine equity issue, because that was settled, at least I think it was. And then the part of it is there are kind of two themes that were going at the OCFA. One is the equity issue, in which Irvine is overfunding the authority, at least in their viewpoint. And I guess, you know, when it's tied to your property value and property tax, there's going to be people that overfund, and there'll be people that underfund, whatever the tax might be. It depends on what we pay for our homes or properties. So there's that issue that's going on, and Irvine has been talking about maybe there's a different model that they have to look at in terms of fire, emergency services. So on the west side here, my then colleagues from Seal Beach, well, mostly Cypress and La Palma, we're talking amongst ourselves, and we need, I think, to our constituents here to look at that same question that Irvine has already looked at, and there's a big lengthy report on it. So I've asked the council here for permission to at least task staff to start looking at that, and here we are looking at it. And it will come forward in terms of, do we still want to proceed on with this study? And I think we should in some fashion, maybe not to the extent that Irvine did it, but we ought to look at, see how do we obtain our fire, emergency response services, firefighting services. And we ought to look at that for our constituents. And I think if you look at the article, one of the statements in there that when we look at this thing, we're going to see that OCFA is a good deal for the community. And I really hope that when we look at that, that's indeed the answer. But I think we owe it to ourselves and the community to take that look and do the study, and we'll see where we end up. But we've got a short period of time. We have maybe another a year and a half, 2018, July 2018, to come to a decision. So this council needs to have the information in order to make the best decision. We are working with other communities in the local area, and even South County, we've been talking with them. So this is a question, I think, that it's a very good one, a very healthy one to ask. And with that, I want to ask Mayor Pro Tem to talk about, when it's your turn, to talk about the equity issue. But thank you, Troy, for that.
Oh, yeah. I'm interested in the equity issue. And I would just add before you give that is it's a burning bridge. I mean, we're making it sound a little bit like it's our option to evaluate because we think it's a cool thing to do, but the reality is, if Irvine leaves, the thing potentially collapses, and we really don't have a cost-effective solution. And that's where I think you and Warren have worked so good to kind of keep us up to speed. And so, yeah, I mean, if you can talk a little bit about that.
I think what it is there was a lawsuit going on, and it was the City of Irvine versus, no, I'm sorry, the County of Orange versus OCFA and State of Irvine. And basically, the City of Irvine was saying that because their property taxes were so high and their percentage was they were overfunding what they felt should be a per household charge to supply fire services in Irvine, and they were subsidizing other cities that weren't contributing quite as much. It's a formula that gets put in, a portion of the property taxes just get funded for fire services. And so the fire authority and the City of Irvine agreed that there should be some sort of equity payment back to Irvine for them to be able to use the money elsewhere. County of Orange didn't like that. And so there was a lawsuit. They sided with the County of Orange. It was appealed, and last week the judgment was upheld. What's interesting in the dynamics is on the OCFA, there's 26 cities represented, but there's also 2 members from the Board of Supervisors. So they ultimately were sitting on both sides, which was interesting to watch the dynamics. But anyway, on that case, and Irvine has said that if this doesn't go in their favor, that they could look at succeeding, going off on their own. They're big enough. It could be messy. It could be a long time from now, but it's something that they could do. They do have the money to do it, the size and everything else. So if you pull their funding out of it, it changes the makeup of OCFA. So what Councilmember Kusamoto wanted to do was just us to be proactive instead of reactive and start looking at that, making no decisions other than knowing what it would have cost for us to stay, what would it cost for us to be on our own, to privatize, to join with other cities in our area, all the different options. So when and if this does happen, we don't have to react and hurry and make rash judgments. So he's done a great job. On my side of it, I'm on OCFE. It's business as usual. We've got a lot of exciting things that I can talk about more going on. And it's, you know, the tone there is very positive and healthy. I don't see it's us against them. It's a very healthy group of people. We're talking about a lot of things right now, and I don't see that animosity or anything building. It's just people are just, we're creating good business models because we may or may not be in control of our own destiny. So we want to be able to at least financially know what that means.
Great. Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor. Thanks.
It's back to me. Okay. So Race on the Base. It was awesome. The Night Glow run was terrific. I was jealous that I couldn't participate in it. I'm hoping we could maybe do an adult run and maybe the finish line would be at Fiddler's or something that night. I think that would be great. But was more exciting to see, and Corey and I talked briefly about it, is we had the Sunburst Youth Academy there volunteering. And just to watch them interact with the kids that night and during the day. I mean, these are kids that at 16 and 17 years old, they got off to a rough start. And watching them, you know, they started this program in January, so they've been there 2 months away from home. And watching them interact with the community and with the kids and staff and just you kind of watching their character change. And it's things like this that it's just really cool to kind of watch that. The Americana Awards, we honored retired Lieutenant Colonel Tom Lasser for his years of service here on the base as a base commander and then also as our community liaison. But we also honored Teresa Sharon, who's a resident of Cyprus, but she was honored because she is the Queen Mother of Precious Life Shelter that's in LaSalle. So that was great because we kind of got to double dip on our honorees. Attended Coach Barnes' retirement ceremony as the head coach from LaSalle High School football after, I believe, 24 years as head coach, could be a little bit longer. Participated in Deer Day at Los Alamitos Elementary, Drop Everything and Read. And I was accompanied by Chief Nunez and Captain Connolly and another officer. And I tell you, those uniformed officers at an elementary school are absolute rock stars. I got to read Boxcar Children to 23rd graders, and God bless those teachers. It's not my gift in life to do that, but they do a great job. I attended the Joint Forces Town Hall meeting introducing the pool model to the residents and some of the user groups. It was well attended and well received. I am completely confident that they have every desire to take care of our residents and make sure that pool stays operating and functioning and upgraded, and it's not going to be empty. So I was quite pleased with that. Didn't hear a lot of controversy, at least at the meeting I went through, and I think they're going to do a good job, and you know, business on as usual. Attended the police appreciation lunch where the chief was introduced and he was able to speak, and also the CEO of Servite High School spoke. He was outstanding. He really called it like it was and how kids are being raised in character and subjective. It was very good. And then I also wanted to get back on something that's happening at the Orange County Fire Authority. I have my wingman Ken Cruz here, so in case I miss any information, what they're in July of last year, and I believe Councilmember Kusamoto attended, I attended, and I believe Brett attended the OCFA Day in the Life. And this was to introduce this new enhanced service model where right now the way it's operated is there are 3 firefighters on an engine, and so when a 911 call is taken and they go to a call and they realize that advanced life support is needed, a second unit with the paramedic needs to be dispatched. So there's a delay in service, life enhancing services. And so what they did in July of last year, they rolled out phase 1, which included Dana Point, Laguna Niguel, Tustin, and Yorba Linda. And what they did is to this engine, they added a 4th person, which was a paramedic. So now this engine can start advanced life services immediately instead of waiting for a second engine. And so at our last meeting, they did kind of a recap on what phase 1 did, and it was pretty staggering. And if you know, the first thing they did, it was a 3-minute reduction time in advanced life support services. And if you've ever called 911 and you're trying to keep somebody alive, 3 minutes is huge. So right there, that was, time to roll out phase 2. There was a 19% drop in total unit responses since now only 1 unit's required. The reason that's important to us is because if LaSalle is out on a call and they require life support services, either Seal Beach or Cypress is now brought in, well, now that takes them away from going to another call. So by adding just that one person, it's basically doubled our capacity to go on multiple calls. Medic vans are now available for about 1,500 more medic calls because of this new model, and it just increased the depth for a second call coverage. So phase 2 right now is being rolled out, and that includes Irvine, Lake Forest, Mission Viejo, and Santa Ana. The whole implementation is 5 phases, and from what I understand, we're being planned in phase 3. So that's exciting, kind of behind the scenes type thing that people might not know there's a difference, but when you're waiting those 3 minutes, that's a huge difference. And also, just lastly, I wanted to encourage everybody for the Weekend of Art. By the time we have our next council meeting, it's going to be right on there. It's April 29th through May 1st, and there's all kinds of categories you can submit entries in. I'm submitting one. Why not? I've got some side talents. And, the entry is free. I think it's going to be a great weekend. I'm excited about this. I think it's something that we've needed for a long time. Just another event to bring our community together and kind of find some hidden talents among our gems anyway. So with that, that's it.
Thank you. I think I have some side talents. This is going to be how I always think of you now. I was able to attend the Americana Awards with Tom Lasser, our nominee, and he was so thankful for the award. It really, really was impressive. And Dean and I were able to attend a 100th birthday, not our own, but those are always impressive. And not only did I make the race on the base, I was able to start 2 whole races. Didn't run in any of them, but did start them. Friday night is, Corey, I think that thing's going to be huge. In a couple years, it was fun. And people want to participate where there's fun. I think you could run 10 different classes of races and fill them all up, especially if you end a few of the Fiddlers on the Green for Shelley. I want to thank LAUSD for allowing us to go to Coach Barnes' retirement. It was really a community event, and I got to thank Griffin's Grill and Matt for coming out and providing the food and really making it a class event for the coach, who is a first-class guy. Did attend Sober Living with Dean. The overall takeaway there is they're nibbling at the edges, but we're still stuck. Was able to go to the swearing in. Chief, I've never missed one since I was elected, but with an hour notice, they're getting tougher and tougher to. And I attended Middle Tennessee State.
There you go.
Couldn't resist. And also the police appreciation, which was a very nice event. Glad we can do that for the officers, well deserved. Thank you. Brett?
The Spring Carnival Egg Hunt is coming up March 26th, this Saturday. Little Cottonwood Park. Corey, time period?
9 to 11.
And details? 9 to 11. So go over there to the park. And Shelley mentioned the art show, and then CPRS conference and the event over at Rancho Los Alamitos. Corey, can you just give a brief description of that event? Sure. Several of our staff attended the California Park and Recreation Society conference. I believe it was just under 2,000 delegates throughout the state, all municipal, most of them municipal related parks and recreation professionals, and happens annually in March and alternates Northern California, Southern California. It was in Long Beach this year. The councilmember Kusamoto, myself, and our city manager attended the mayor's reception hosted by the mayor of Long Beach, which was very nice at Rancho Los Alamitos. Again, beautiful facility, and a great opportunity to network with other council members and commissioners from throughout the area. Great educational sessions, great opportunity. I was sworn in as the Region 5 representative for the state, one of 11 board members. So my area is San Diego, Orange County, and LA County. So 2-year commitment, but real excited to help.
Excuse me, but you were voted in for this by among your peers, so it's not, you were voted by your peers.
Correct.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah,
Pretty cool.
I'm real excited to take on that venture that'll take me throughout Southern California and trying to help work with all the entities and my colleagues. So I'm excited about that. So it's a great conference. So thank you for letting us attend a lot of educational sessions and come back reinvigorated. A lot of staff are very, very motivated again coming out of that. So it's a nice thing to attend once every couple of years when it's in Southern California. Makes it cheap and easy for us to attend. So real invigorating for all of the staff.
That's it? Okay, we will adjourn until April. Thank you.
If we wouldn't have done council.